580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for stopping by on another lovely afternoon here in the capital city of Kansas. Jam-packed 4 hours for you today. We're going to talk plenty of Chiefs. We'll talk some K-State. Avery Johnson, Will Howard. What did Chris Kleiman say today? We'll get to that. We'll talk a little KU football as well. Talk a lot of Chiefs. And we got to talk about the Chargers because they went full Charger 6 weeks into the season. We'll get to that coming up as well here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Jake, Dan, Brendan with you. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. Also, give us a shout on our YouTube comments. Very easy to get to. Go to youtube.com. Type in 580 Sports Talk, 580 Sports Talk. Click on it, hit the subscribe button, and you can interact with us. Leave us a comment as well. Always enjoy interacting with our fellow radio listeners on this Tuesday. Do you have some baseball tonight that I won't be watching, but some people will. Some people will.
All right.
Just not my cup of tea. So we're gonna get started though today. About a comment made by Mike Lombardi. Mike Lombardi said, what if the Chiefs play a good defense? What's going to happen? This Chiefs offense right now is not performing at the level that we are used to. It's not. But what if the Chiefs run into a good defense? All right, so I wanted to take a look at the teams that they've played. Maybe they played some good defenses. So I went 2 different ways, right? Because 6 games, try to do some analytical numbers, also just did the old-fashioned points per game number, and also let you know what the Chiefs are at to let you know. Because we think the Chiefs are a good defense, right? I think the Chiefs are a pretty good defense.
Very good defense.
Chiefs right now are second in the NFL with 15 points per game allowed. 15 points per game. They are 9th, according to the analytical numbers, of overall defense, which takes into account opponent and all of that kind of stuff.
Is that from DVOA?
DVOA. All right. Here's what the Chiefs have done. The Lions, they're giving up 19 points per game, which is 9th in the NFL. But they're 3rd overall in overall defense, according to the advanced numbers. The Jags, they're 8th overall in the advanced defensive numbers. They give up 20 points per game. That's 15th in the NFL. The Vikings give up 22 points per game. That's 21st in the NFL. But they're 13th according to the analytics. The Jets, like we normally think the Jets are like a really good team, right? Really good defense. Awesome. Well, the Jets give up 20 points per game, which is 13th, according to points per game allowed. They are 12th, according to the advanced numbers. The Broncos, they're last in everything. They give up 33 points per game. That's last. And then you've got the Bears, which are 29th in points per game allowed by giving up 29 points. Fun little, symmetrical there. And then they're 29th overall in analytics. So according to just points per game, the Chiefs have played the 9th, 15th, 21st, 13th, 32nd, and 29th ranked defenses. We know that they have won every game but one, and that was against the Lions. They've been better than the average. So if the Lions are giving up 19 points per game, the Chiefs technically scored 20 on them. So they're above the average.
Probably worth noting that they did not have their best
player,
receiver in that game.
In the game.
Yeah, maybe worth noting as to give the full context there.
The Jags give up 20. Chiefs scored 17. The Vikings give up 22. Chiefs scored 27. Jets give up 20. Chiefs scored 23.
With an asterisk because they could have scored 30, and we're a yard away from scoring 30 if it hadn't meant anything to score 30.
The Broncos give up 33. The Chiefs scored 19. despite having 5 trips into the red zone. And they put up 41 on the Bears, who gave up 29. So you've got 2 games in which they were below the average that the team normally gives up, and 4 games above it. So is Mike Lombardi correct by saying what's going to happen when the Chiefs face a good team? They faced one top defense according to points per game allowed, if you want to go with the points per game allowed. And that's the Lions without Travis Kelce. And they faced 2 teams with a top 10 overall defense according to the advanced numbers, in which they went 1-1 against that. So are we thinking that the Chiefs offense right now is not as good as we anticipated? Is it also a bad situation that they've played some poor defenses this year?
I would like to begin with this. Michael Lombardi's an idiot.
Okay.
So I think that's an important thing to say out here.
Okay.
For what it's worth, just, his whole thing is he's a personnel guy, right?
Yeah,
he's a personnel guy. Here's the last 2 jobs he's had where he's been in charge of a team's personnel. The 1998 Philadelphia Eagles under head coach Ray Rhodes. You know how the Eagles finished that year?
6-10?
3-13, and they hired Andy Reid the next year. Andy shows up. Hey, doofus, get the hell out of here. The 2013 Cleveland Browns.
Is that Bruce Gradkowski, the quarterback that year?
That's a good guess. Their quarterbacks that year, I got to scroll all the way to their roster here.
Ooh, no, was that Brandon Weeden?
Brandon Weeden and Jason Campbell.
Brandon Weeden.
Gross.
Their number 2 running back was a guy named Chris Ogbanaya. You know who that is?
Yeah, he went to Auburn.
Yeah, good job. You and like 8 other people know who he is.
Do you remember the name of their coach? 1 year as the head coach, 2013. There was not a second.
Yes. What? Oh, gosh.
The first syllable of his last name is also the best descriptor of this guy.
Oh, gosh. What is it?
Rob Chudzinski. That's who Mike Lombardi was in charge of.
Okay. Anyway.
He's an idiot.
All right.
So
we made that baseline.
No,
No, we did. We made that baseline.
No,
okay.
I'm saying no. So point number 1.
Yes.
We have made that point.
But
point number 2.
Okay. Let's take out the fact that it was, let's say, NFL analyst says, what's going to happen if the Chiefs face a better defense?
We'll get fined if I say the right word for him. I'm not really worried about this, to be honest. I don't think this is going to be an especially big deal. They scored in a low-scoring NFL with low scores all over the place. The best defense they have faced per DVOA, they put up 20 points in a game in which they had probably, not even a maybe, probably the single worst wide receiver performance the NFL will see this year by an individual or by a team. Because Kadarius Toney was, -6 points in EPA, which is impossible. That is impossible.
The joke is that if Toney just, every time in week 1 against Lions, if Toney on the snap of the ball fell down to the ground, the Chiefs would have won that game.
So that is the best defense they've played so far with a very young wide receiver group and 2 new offensive tackles.
And no Travis Kelce.
And no Travis Kelce. Week 2 against the Jags. That's not a great defense. Actually, the numbers look a little bit better than I would think about that.
They're 8th. Because when I first initially looked at this without looking at the numbers, I would have thought the Jets would have the best defense. That's why when NFL analysts said that, I thought to myself, you know what? I wonder about that. Because when you think of the Bears defense, we know it stinks. The Broncos defense, we know it stinks. The Vikings, to me, their defense isn't very good.
Yeah, their reputation isn't very good, but they've performed fairly well so far.
And then I would say
year.
the Jags, I don't think, when I think about the Jags, is very good. I thought the Lions defense had been okay. So if you were to tell me, oh yeah, the Chiefs have played 1 good defense in the Jets and one okay defense in the Lions and everybody else was in the bottom half, I would have said to you, man, they're not producing and they're playing, some bottom tier defenses. What if they do go up against a team like the Browns, like the 49ers, someone of that nature? Do you go, wow, are they going to get the clamps locked down on them? But looking overall, the Jets are not as good as I think the numbers show, but maybe.
See, I would argue that at their best, they might even be better than
that's
those
what I'm
numbers.
saying. I would have thought that they'd be better than that. I mean, they're giving up 20 points per game, which is crazy because 20 points per game, is around 13th, 14th, or 15th. So if the Chiefs do run into a really, really good defense, how does that impact their output? Or, and this is what I do believe. I think the entire Chiefs offense right now on points per game and because that's what matters most is how many what are your points? I don't care about yardage. I don't care about any of that. It's the red zone. That's it. Because they've got an unstoppable force in Travis Kelce. Their O-line is playing well. Pacheco seems to be running it well. Can you get into the end zone? Because from the 20 to the 20, it has been excellent. We're going to get more in-depth into the red zone discussion a little bit later. But that's why I'm not too worried about the Chiefs' defenses or the Chiefs' offense going up against a good defense. And the main reason why is overall the O-line has played well. You've got Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor.
Still not wild about Smith, but I do think that the interior line has played really well.
Yeah.
They protected the pass rush that has affected the Chiefs thus far. It hasn't been that middle pass rush that totally breaks down your offense.
If you look at just last night, we're going to talk about the Chargers a little bit more. The reason why the Chargers couldn't do squat yesterday is because Herbert had no chance. The D line for the Cowboys was all over him. I mean, all over Herbert. Why did Brock Purdy struggle a whole lot? Man, the Browns' defensive pass rush was in his face the entire game, especially when Trent Williams goes down. I think the Chiefs' offensive line can hold up, and if your O-line can hold up, I think you can score on any defense. On any defense, considering the Chiefs, their scheme, their players, with Travis Kelce, the running game a little bit better. That's why right now I'm not going to be too concerned about if they go up against a juggernaut defense. But are you ready for this? Can you tell me, and do you want to go with points per game or do you want to go with, let's do points per game allowed. Okay. Do you guys know the next really good team that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to face when it comes to defense and points per game allowed?
Is it Cincinnati?
The Eagles, November 20th.
The Eagles actually...
Yeah, they play them before they play Cincinnati. Obviously.
That is correct. Because here's who they play coming up. They got Miami, gives up 26 points per game. The Chargers give up 25 points per game. The Raiders give up 22 points per game. And then finally, you get to Cincinnati gives up 22. They don't face a top defense in terms of points per game until they face the Eagles. And then the best team that they'll face coming up is Buffalo, because Buffalo's defense is playing pretty well right now. So to the point of,
but is shorthanded going forward.
Yeah, very shorthanded without Milano and without
Tre'Davious
White.
Two of their four best defensive players.
So looking at the Chiefs, I mean, they got the Chargers coming up, whose defense to me is not exceptional, and the Chiefs have always done well against the Chargers defense. Then you got the Broncos again, and then the Dolphins defense gives up points left and right. I wonder, how that game will work. So they don't really face a whole lot. I mean, they're the top 7 defenses: Dallas, New Orleans, Cleveland, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, San Francisco. They face one of the top 7, and they've already faced Detroit. They don't face Houston. They don't face the Rams. They don't face the Titans or the Jets, Atlanta, and they've already faced Jacksonville. They face one top 15 defense the rest of this year as of now in points per game. So it's not like they're going through murderer's row here.
Yeah.
Which is a positive situation, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not I guess if you're really worried about this offense, I get it, but I don't really think we should be worried. I think you can be worried about certain elements of this offense, red zone, situational play calling and short yardage, etc. But overall, I wouldn't. I mean, look at this past was it this past week that I'm thinking of against the Broncos? Yeah, I mean, they moved the ball with ease.
Yeah, Mahomes, I mean, did he
highest yardage total of the season?
Yeah, did he even have an interceptable pass? I don't even know if he did.
Maybe one, but if I might not even be thinking of the right one.
Yeah.
So no, I mean they moved the ball well. It's just about getting the situational stuff done, and we're still only a third of the way through the year. So I'm not concerned. Stop putting Mike Lombardi on TV, God, or radio, or video, or anywhere. He's
I feel like you're attacking me right now.
I'm not attacking you. You didn't put him on TV. You didn't call him up.
Something I thought, and then I looked at the numbers and looked at it and thought, no, because they according to the advanced numbers, they played better defenses than I thought they did.
Yeah.
They have, for sure.
And really the only reason we're having this discussion is because what we saw most recently, right? Like nobody's having this discussion after you put 41 on the Bears. You're having this discussion because they scored 19 on a short week with a hyper conservative game plan against a divisional rival. And if Mahomes doesn't turn the ball over in the red zone, and if Andy Reid's brain doesn't shut off and go haywire and decide I'm going to run the worst fake field goal of all time, then okay, maybe you don't finish those drives with 10 points, but probably finishing with 6. And then you're sitting there, you say, we scored 25 points. We were in the red zone all game. And then you work on the root cause, which is the red zone has to be better, like you were saying. And we're not focused on the raw number at the end of the day, because the Chiefs did whatever they wanted offensively. Outside of the red zone, from your own goal line to the 20, that was Kansas City's best offensive performance of the season. The fact they only scored 19 points, it's not really reflective of how well they played. It is reflective, though, like you said, of what they need to fix.
Coming up, we will get to the Chargers. Man, the Chargers. We'll get to that next. The Los Angeles Chargers were in action last night. And the Chargers
lost a close game.
Are now one more loss away from not winning the division yet again.
That's over. No, it's over.
I'm going to go ahead and say, even though I probably shouldn't, the nail will be in the coffin if the Kansas City Chiefs win Saturday Saturday. If they win Saturday, it'd be very difficult to do. But if they win Sunday against the Chargers will be 2-4. The Chiefs will be 6-1, and they will be 4 games up on the Chargers. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that's it. Like,
yeah,
it's over. If the Chargers beat the Chiefs on Sunday, then the Chiefs are 5-2. The Chargers are 3-3. They got at least one game up on you. I can at least put together a defense for the Chargers, but I can't if they lose. And the Chargers, I don't even know. How are you a Charger fan? God bless that one gal who was on the emotional roller coaster. If you watch the game, they showed her multiple times, and she's a diehard Chargers fan, and so much so that the Chargers actually made her picture, her Twitter profile picture now.
She was going ham up there in that.
She was hyped. She was hyped.
I said on Twitter last night, it looked like she just won the Showcase Showdown.
But my goodness, you ready for this? 19 of the Chargers' last 24 games have been decided by 7 points or less, dating back to week 18 of 2021. Here are their last 8 losses for the Chargers. 3, 3, 2, 1, 3, 7, 3, 6. Do you know how hard it is to lose that many games in a row by one possession? It is difficult, but yet the Chargers have been able to do it.
Yeah.
I would have fired Staley after the end of last year. I would have moved on. And here's why. You have a quarterback right now who, on paper, has been very good. Very good. But when it comes down to it, struggles to close out some games. Now, some of that is, the defense, because the Chargers defense has been bad. Some of that is on the offense. Some of that's the old offensive line. We know it's not just the quarterback, right? We deal with more nuance than, well, Justin Herbert can't win games, so he stinks. He was not good yesterday. No question about that. He hasn't been able to win the big game. That's a big issue. But the Chargers screwed up this offseason and I know they changed offensive coordinators. I know. They got Kellen Moore. To be
massive upgrade over Joe Lombardi.
Yes. But for me, you need to, and Staley, if they lose to the Chiefs, it wouldn't stun me if he gets fired. It wouldn't.
I mean, it would stun me because they're still fighting for the playoffs.
But they need to go. You want to know what I would do if I were the Chargers? The moment that you realize that Staley isn't going to be there, okay, I would go out and hire the best offensive mind that I could find in the NFL and pair him with Justin Herbert.
You know who they're hiring. You want an offensive mind? I got one that plays his games in Pasadena.
Chip Kelly?
No, Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess UCLA plays their games in Pasadena. All right, fine. At the Coliseum.
Lincoln?
Hey, you can almost talk me into Chip Kelly giving the NFL a third try. Third time's a charm, right?
Oh, God. Yeah, I guess USC is not technically in Pasadena. But, yeah, I'm thinking of Lincoln Riley.
It is absolutely
It's either
not
Lincoln Riley or it is your guy, Ben Johnson, for the Lions. You go out and you get an offensive head coach, an offensive-minded coach.
Here's the thing, though. I'm not like a super Herbert defender. because I think that there are some parts of the national football media that just refuse to blame him for anything, which is inappropriate. Like they had that huge loss last year in the playoffs to the Jags, not just because of Brandon Staley. Like Staley goofed up, but
Yes.
Herbert also not moving their offense at all for a whole half is also his fault. Here's the other thing, though. Like, it's the same problem the Bills have. Like, they just don't. I think, have the most overrated roster probably in the NFL. Like, defensively, you've got legit studs. Like, Joey Bosa, when he can play every fourth snap, is a stud.
Same with Derwin James. You say the same thing about him.
Khalil Mack is older, but he's actually played really well this year. They've got some nice players there. Asante Samuel's a nice player. But offensively, Quentin Johnson has been bad.
Yeah.
That has not worked out.
Real bad.
Like, they're starting Josh Palmer. Like, Josh Palmer's fine, but that's not a player that you're like, oh, man, Herbert to Palmer. Can't wait to what? No, I mean, that's...
Okay, how much different is Palmer than a Chiefs wide receiver?
That's not a good thing for the Chargers, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like the Chiefs, are they getting enough out of like if we're going to compare, positions, like the Chargers have a better wide receiver group than the Chiefs do.
I don't know.
Wide receiver group. Keenan Allen's better than any Chiefs player we got.
Josh Palmer's not. Quentin Johnston right now is not. Simi Fehoko is not. Do you know who Darius Davis is? No, I know that answer. You don't know who that is.
DD.
You don't know who that is. Keenan Allen's number one of that group. The rest of that group stinks. Like, Gerald Everett is a fine tight end, but he's not great. He's okay.
He's not Travis Kelce.
I mean, he's not. He's truly not. Their offensive line still has problems year after year after year. It's been like that since the late Rivers years. Like, that's not a good roster. And I think, like, if they don't make the playoffs this year, you got to fire Staley. Like, you have to.
Oh, I think you move on from Staley regardless.
But
you've hit your ceiling with Staley. Besides, he's supposed to be a defensive guy, a defensive wizard, and their defense is boo-boo.
That's its own issue,
That's right. They made the mistake. If your question is, if you say these words, should we fire our coach? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's kind of like, if I say it to myself, should I hop in the shower? Yes! Yes, you should. Just hop in the shower, get cleaned up. You smell real good. It takes 5 minutes. If your answer is, do we give Staley one more year? No! The answer is no, you don't. It's not working out. He went from being uber aggressive to crazy conservative to now he is back to being uber aggressive. Like the no consistency whatsoever. And we see what's in the proof is in the pudding. I would have moved on this offseason. Maybe the Spanos family didn't want to pay the contract. I don't know. But no, to me, unless they make the title game.
If they make the playoffs, they're keeping him, though.
Well, I hope so. To be honest with you, I hope they do, because then the Chiefs are going to be in a great spot.
And some guys just can't be head coaches. I mean, Spags is a great example. Yeah. And I think he has said as much, right?
We just talked about Schwartz yesterday. Mike Fangio's another guy. Great coordinator. They tried to make him the head coach and
doesn't work.
Didn't work.
And Staley is the next in that group. All I was trying to say was I think that the Chargers have problems that go beyond Justin Herbert can't finish games. One, because I'm not a QB wins guy. But also, like, that roster is just not very good. Their head coach is not a good decision maker. Moore is an improvement from Lombardi. Like, that's for sure. And their GM, I don't think, is all that good. Like, when's the last time the Chargers had a great draft?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like, they landed Herbert, which was obviously a good pick. Obviously. They were going to take whichever one of Tua or Herbert didn't go with the 5th overall pick. But, like, last year, Zion Johnson, a guard, was their first-round pick. He's a pretty good player. J.T. Woods was their next pick in the 3rd round. What J.T. Woods doing? You know where he went to college?
Boston College.
What was your answer?
Virginia Tech.
He played at Baylor. We covered this guy. We don't even know who he is. Like, that's who the Chargers are drafting. A couple years ago, 2021. Rashawn Slater, good player, missed all of last year because he was hurt, or almost all of last year.
He's from Virginia.
Asante Samuel's a pretty good defensive back. Josh Palmer, who's like whatever, he's just a guy. Trey McKitty, That's not an NFL player. That's a Disney Channel cartoon.
TE4.
Yeah, Chris Rumpf, great name, nobody player. Brendan Hymus, you know who that is? No, of course you don't.
Yeah, not finding the depth and the quality that the Chiefs typically find day 2, day 3 of the draft. That's one separator. The other separator is just like at the end of the day, and I've used this analogy before when talking about the Chargers. There's that line in the movie Moneyball where Brad Pitt's Billy Beane, they're talking about a player with the scouts, and he asks, if he's a good hitter, then why doesn't he hit good? And that's what I always think about with the Chargers. If they're so good on paper, because everybody tells me, I've been calling them next year's champions on this show for as long as I've been on this show. They are forever next year's champions because you put those names one after the other on paper. Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen, Rashawn Slater, Bosa, Derwin James, Khalil Mack, like stars, guys who rate over like 88 and above in Madden, right? You put it all on paper, it looks really good, and they don't win. If it's a good team, why aren't they good? If they're a good team, why are we talking about one playoff game for Justin Herbert? If Justin Herbert's a good quarterback, why did he lose so damn always?
No, I'm with you.
Like, go win a game. At the end of the day, I know that makes me sound like I'm some like Skip Bayless ranting and raving over here about the Chargers. They make people stupid on both sides of the equation because the analytics people dig their heels in with the Chargers to say Brandon Staley makes the right decisions, process over results. That's what you have to do. They lose close games, but it's a lot of bad luck. Their process is really good. You have to trust that their process will eventually bear fruit. And on the other side of it, it makes the other side dumb because look at the record. Justin Herbert's a 500 quarterback. What has he ever done? What is the signature Justin Herbert moment? Matt Verderam asked that on Twitter last night. What is the signature Justin Herbert game?
The game they lost. For real.
It's the playoff game.
Week 18 of 2021. That is the best. Like,
when they tied with, or
everyone wanted them to tie.
Yes, and they couldn't do it,
which was bizarre. Like, why are you guys rooting for this? But anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah,
I would have said the playoff game.
His finest moment is a game they lost, which I think, again, is indicative of the fact that this is just not a good franchise.
I really think this is an interesting point that a texter makes on the from the 785. Every Brady needs a Manning. The media has to keep pumping up these other quarterbacks to even have somebody who can remotely compare to Mahomes. The reality is they're all fine, but Burrow's the only one who until this year has answered that arch rival call. It's sort of like when Tiger Woods was a man in golf and the next guy had to be somebody. Like it had to be David Duval, and it wasn't David Duval.
Ernie.
Yeah, Ernie Els or Sergio Garcia or Phil, and none of them could hold Tiger's golf bag.
And that's why at the beginning of this year, when you asked me to put quarterbacks in tiers, tier 1 is Mahomes. He's on his own tier.
Yeah.
No one is near him. In fact, it's a tier, pretty decent sized gap. Then I would put 3 other quarterbacks next to him. I would put Burrow, Hurts, and Allen. Those would be my next 3. And then after that, I would put Herbert in with the Lamar Jackson and Herbert type of tier. Like Herbert's not even on the Burrow or Allen level, but yet people put him there. I understand there are limitations because you can only do so much, but to put Herbert on the Burrow or Allen, let alone the Mahomes tier, you're ridiculous. You really, really are. Also from the 785, Andy Reid has a Lamborghini in the garage that he'll take out in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl that's going to blow everyone away. Good day. No, I do think there is some to that Andy Reid is also in the just get wins in the regular season. It's a means to an end. And then you come out into the playoffs. Like there's some truth to that maybe Andy Reid should be just like that. Hey, you know what? I'll have my, 2007 Porsche that's really nice and is good and flashy, but I don't need to bring out my Lamborghini just yet. I'll bring it out when I need to really flex on them.
Yeah, and that's possible. this isn't really relevant. I hate that. Like, I hate it. But, I mean, if that's what you're doing and it works, then, so be it. By the way, Twitter sleuths have revealed that woman was a fraud last night. There are pictures of her face painted wearing all Vikings gear at a game in recent years.
Well,
fraud.
Wait,
maybe when the Chargers moved to Los Angeles, maybe that's her hometown. She switched allegiances.
That could be.
Maybe
she just loves losing. Like, maybe she just loves being a disappointment.
I saw Tom Pelissero tweet out that they're season ticket holders and do buy a suite, a few games a year.
She was on with Pat McAfee today.
Was she really good for her?
I hope she got paid.
Good for her. Probably not. Coming up next, a little overreaction, proper action here on 580 Sports Talk. Time for a little overreaction, proper reaction. Alrighty, my very first one. Overreaction, proper reaction. Dan Campbell will win Coach of the Year.
I'm going to go with, I guess, technically overreaction.
Okay, let me rephrase it then. Or do you want to?
No, I actually think that's a proper reaction.
Okay.
I mean, that's a team that's never really won anything. They've never won the NFC North. If they win the NFC North, and I don't see who's going to keep them from doing that,
they will.
Then I think that by virtue of having delivered on that preseason hype, then he would be the front runner.
So I'll say this: overreaction, proper reaction. Dan Campbell is doing the best job as head coach with what he has.
Is the suggestion there that the Lions don't have high-end talent? Because I think they do.
No, it's a simple.
Because
a lot of people would say, well, that you should be able to win with the Chiefs no matter what.
Or is the question which team or which coach is having his team overachieve the most at this point? Because that could be, I think that's a different answer for me.
For me, it's a two coach race. If you wanted to say a third of the way through the season, it's McDaniel and it's Campbell. It's one or the other.
I thought DeMeco Ryans has a chance as well.
Ryans, I'd put third.
I would have said DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah.
I also might have thrown Kevin Stefanski out there. He just beat the undefeated Niners with an XFL quarterback.
You know, funny enough about that, I just saw a post from the blog Awful announcing that the headline is Cleveland radio host threatens to stop taking calls because Browns fans can't stop trying to fire Kevin Stefanski.
It's a great clip.
You're smarter than that. I thought we were a better football town than that.
No football town is better than what you think.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's proper that he is like in the discussion, that he is one of the favorites to win that award. I think for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's either him or McDaniel right now, if I had to pick.
Do you know what Dan Campbell's nickname is?
MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell.
MCDC.
MCDC, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Was pretty wrong about Dan Campbell, to be honest with you. I thought he came in, it was a lot of bluster, it was a lot of hardo football guy speak, and I said, I don't think that's going to play in an NFL locker room. And it turns out it's playing really well in that locker room. So full credit to him, because I think from some guys that doesn't play well. To make that play well, you've got to be a certain type of personality, and Dan Campbell clearly is.
I will say this, because I was wrong as well about him. I heard this said, I think it was before this season. I want to say I heard it from the Athletic Football Show. There is a reason that when Sean Payton got suspended, and a couple of years later, when the Dolphins needed an interim head coach, they went with, or I guess Dan Campbell wasn't the full-time head coach of the Saints when Payton was suspended, but there's a reason that multiple teams put a lot of faith in Dan Campbell over the years to lead teams and to be like the rally around this guy. And, you know, criticize Payton now for whatever you want, but he did a really good job of hiring good people. And it's the same thing that I think Campbell should get a lot of credit for, is that he has hired good people.
Yeah.
Because
nobody's confused Dan Campbell with like an X's and O's genius.
No.
So you better find the guys who are.
And he did.
And I don't think he would confuse himself with that either.
No.
But I think,
and that's what being successful in the job is, right?
Yeah.
Knowing your strengths and also knowing your limitations and finding the right people to make your limitations into strengths.
Especially because
that's
leadership. So many head coaches, especially anyone who's ever been associated with the Shanahans, is like, oh, they're a genius, they're a football genius, they're X's and O's wizard, stuff like that. You can know football without being a X's and O's wizard, and I think that's what Campbell is. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. I don't think we've done this one in recent weeks. Overreaction or proper reaction from college football? The best team in the country is Michigan.
That is a proper reaction. They are paving everybody. And I know they haven't played anybody, but there hasn't been a game yet where you look up and, boy, it's 17-13 in the third quarter. Why are they struggling to put away Indiana or Nebraska or whoever? No, they're just coming in. It's squash matches. It's Goldberg during the winning streak in WCW when he wasn't facing anybody good. Spear, jackhammer, go pyro, go the back, match over. Like, that's what we're seeing from Michigan right now. That's what you're supposed to do if you're the best team in the country.
Yep.
Also, Georgia's best player is hurt. Also,
Oh, that sucks.
I just, like, as much as I'm having fun with the Pac-12 and Washington, I think is the best team in that league, it feels like that league is still really, really good and that somebody's going to get them. And I don't know anybody's going to get Michigan.
Let me ask you this. How many games has Michigan given up double-digit points?
Given up?
Yeah.
Once.
One against Minnesota.
Yeah. 3-7, 6-7, 7-10-7.
Holy
Moses.
They're putting their backup quarterback into games in the third quarter.
The closest,
like on a weekly basis, Jack Tuttle is playing the third quarter. I think J.J. McCarthy's thrown one pass in the fourth quarter of a game this year. One!
And they still don't play anybody until
Penn State.
November 11th. I mean, they got Michigan State, who just lost to Rutgers, and then you've got Purdue. That ain't happening. So, yeah, hoofda.
I do. I think they're the best team in the country. I think it's Harbaugh's best defense. I think J.J. McCarthy is legitimately good. I think they have an incredible offensive line, two really good running backs. I think that is the best team in the country.
I'm with you. I think they're the best team in the country. I mean, they're going to roll all the way through.
Losing Bowers is a huge deal.
Yeah, that sucks.
Huge deal. And they don't know if he's going to come back. He's going to try to, but there's a part of me that's like, Brock, you're a top 10 pick next year. You're a guaranteed top 10 pick, Brock Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
you mess up your ankle any more than what it is, what's going to happen? That's a hard part right now with Bowers, because he's going to be out at least 6 weeks. So he's out the regular season. Is he able to come back because of his ankle injury? Do you risk it? Do you just say, my college career is over? I mean, he's won 2 national titles already.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an absolute force. So
yeah, I mean, you got to think about what's next.
Yeah,
to a certain extent. Overreaction or proper reaction? Kansas State's still the 3rd best team in the Big 12.
No, I think that's a proper reaction, and I think the biggest reason why is that A, nobody has claimed that from them, and B, but I mean, it's really the same point. I think we need to have more data behind one team being better before I'm convinced that someone is better. Like, last week it was KU, right? Like, going into last week's game, it was, Kansas is the best team there. And there will be probably others. If K-State slips up again at some point in the regular season, and I think that's entirely possible, well, then all of a sudden, TCU's hot, or all of a sudden, someone else is hot. Like, until you can prove to me for a full year that you are the better team than Kansas State is, I don't think I can fairly put anyone above them. It's the same reason when we were talking, and we'll talk more KU and K-State later in the show, when I was running through KU's schedule yesterday and the games that are winnable down the stretch. Like, I think KU can beat Iowa State, can beat Cincinnati, can beat Texas Tech, but you look at that K-State game, and I think the default has to be you set that as a loss for Kansas, because K-State has dominated. And until you can prove that you're better than that team, whether it's Kansas or someone else, I think they're better than you. And right now, there's no proof of that.
You know what else? He said there are two questions, one, no one's taken it. Also, number 2, the biggest question might be Jalen Daniels back.
Sure.
Like, is Jalen Daniels back going to be healthy at any point in time this year consistently? Because if it is, that KU team is a different team.
But, I mean, for now, I don't think you can say that.
No, you can't. You definitely can't.
Because his absence was not why they lost to Oklahoma State.
No.
Because Jalen Daniels doesn't play linebacker or safety.
That'd be impressive if he did.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was not the quarterback why they lost that game.
Yeah, I'll say proper reaction too.
Who's got the best argument next to them? Is it KU? Because if it is, then I
think
it
Iowa State.
And I think either of those, the answer is a very obvious no. Those teams right this second are not clearly better than where K-State is.
Ask yourself this: if they were playing, if K-State played Iowa State in a neutral field on Saturday, who would be favored? Would it be K-State? Yes, it would. If K-State played Oklahoma State again on a neutral field, it might be closer to a pick 'em, but I bet K-State would be favored on a neutral field. I bet they would be favored. Yeah,
I think so.
And I know they lost to them at home. I know they lost to them in Stillwater. They lost to them by a score. Game was close throughout. K-State had a chance on the final possession. Like, when you're evaluating bigger picture, the game is just one data point.
All right, overreaction, proper reaction. Frank Clark will make an impact for the Chiefs the rest of this year.
That is an overreaction, though I do think he might wind up on the roster at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's got the juice.
I think they're going to sign him when somebody gets hurt.
Probably. I think that makes some sense.
Because right now they got roster they got a roster logjam because no one's hurt on the D-line right now.
Yeah.
And they're getting a Menahu back. So someone's already going to have to go off the roster.
Well, they'll probably sign him to the practice squad is what they'll do.
So that will...
Because he's still on the practice squad is probably more valuable than, I don't know, give me any of the guys. Truman Jones at defensive end. Chase Cota. Who is that?
Chase Cota?
He doesn't even have an assigned number on the practice squad. I think that's probably what they would end up doing is put him on the practice squad, then just sign him full-time whenever they need him. But I would say it's still overreaction because, like, who does he play over?
Somebody gets hurt.
Well, yes, but save for someone getting hurt. Who would he play over?
Oh, I don't know, but someone will get hurt.
I know, but that's not my point. Like, my point is that if he was on the team, the answer is no, he's not going to make an impact because he's never going to play.
Let me ask you, do you think someone will get hurt? I think someone will get hurt. Therefore, he'll get an opportunity. And then does he make... There's just... The NFL is such a a grind now, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just is. So I'm going to say proper reaction. I think he will at some point in time coming up this year. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with Ken Swanson. We got Random Question Tuesday, all of that coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk, coming to you on this Tuesday. Thanks for stopping by. Jake LeBon, Brendan Orzinski, Dan Lucero with you. You have a chance to win $2,000 with the Ghost Your Bills. That's right, Ghost Your Bills. You heard the key word, rain. As in, Brendan likes to make it rain when we go to to eat. He likes to make it rain. Make it rain.
I was going to say, like, the greatest song by Madison, Wisconsin's own rock band Garbage. I'm only happy when it rains, except not plural. That's a great song, by the way.
Never heard of it.
You've never heard I'm Only Happy When It Rains? You've definitely heard that song.
You've absolutely heard that.
Who's it by?
Garbage.
Sing it.
All right, damn, play it.
What? No, why can't you just sing like the hook or the chorus? Or...
I'm only happy when it rains.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You've heard this song. I guarantee
I got nothing
it.
right now. But you need to go to 580wibw.com. Very simple. 580wibw.com. Type in the other stuff that Brendan's talking about Garbage and all that kind of stuff.
What's the name of the band? I know you've heard this song.
Maybe not.
It came out in 1994.
Maybe
Shirley Mason? We'd say I
mean, if I did, maybe back in the day, but I don't think I've heard that song in like the last 23 years.
Phenomenal song.
Well, either way,
Garbage had some hits, man.
you can. What other hit did Garbage have?
Really? Stupid Girl?
I'm going to need you to sing that.
No, we're not singing on the radio.
Why can't you sing?
I think I'm paranoid. I think I'm paranoid.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I can't really do a good Shirley Mason, but
Shirley Manson.
Manson, excuse me.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Wow.
I mean, incredible.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I'm extremely disappointed.
I got nothing, guys.
Great band.
We're on Push It. That was the beginning of the
Push It Real Good.
No, that's Salt and Pepper.
Salt and Pepper.
No, Push It was it was NHL 98 or NHL 99 that game was. Well, no, this album came out in 99. So no, NHL 2000. Yeah. Beginning of that video game.
I got nothing, guys. I got nothing.
Disappointing.
Not a fan of I mean, I don't like Garbage.
Clearly.
I don't. Get it out. Get it out. We've got Random Question Tuesday, which will not include any songs from the band Garbage.
You don't know that.
Well, I can tell you my answer will be I don't know apparently any song from the band Garbage. Ken Swanson of the KC Sports Network will join us as well. He will come on and talk a little Chiefs. We'll also get to some K-State news as well. What is Chris Kleiman going to do? Will Howard, Avery Johnson, or will he play them both?
It's probably going to be that.
Leaning on both. The news today, can we just get rid of NIL discussion in Congress right now? Because my gosh, I want to put an anvil through my head reading all of these.
Violent.
It's so bad.
No, it's awful.
So bad. We Congress doesn't do anything right because they can't agree on anything. That you think you're gonna fix college football's situation? I mean, you got people going, yeah, people. Are they really gonna want to cheer for freshmen and sophomores who are making $1 million a year?
Yes.
Do you know anything about alumni of school?
No.
Clearly, you have no idea why people want to cheer on for K-State, for KU. Nobody cares about this.
So
that's the thing that's so frustrating is that right now college football is at like peak. And once we go to the bigger playoff, it is going to even get better and bigger because more teams and more fan bases have a chance at making the playoff. It is just going to erupt. And you've got Lindsey Graham and all other these people are like, well, this is not a good situation. We need to take care of this. And they're bringing in 79-year-old Jack Swarbrick, who's retiring for help. He doesn't care anymore. Like, what? That's just annoying. It's all over my timeline because I follow the college football people, and Ross Dellinger does a fantastic job for Sports Illustrated, and he's tweeting out all this stuff about Yahoo. Congress is going to save the day, and all these. It's just, oh my gosh, just shove a drill bit into my temple.
So a couple of things here, and I would like to make this clear, and at least speaking for myself, this is not a partisan opinion. Everybody on both sides of the aisle is as dumb as you can get when it comes to this specific topic. Like we've got this. You brought this up from Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Quote, it's hard to root for kids when they're multimillionaires as freshmen and sophomores. Dude, why should I, as a fan,
Are you telling me right now it's terrible rooting for Avery Johnson?
Nah, if you're a K-State fan, it's pretty sick.
Hey,
yeah.
K-State fans, are you down bad because you can't root for Avery Johnson because he's got NIL deals all over the place?
I'll tell you what, rooting for Grady Dick last year is pretty fun.
Oh my God.
That's pretty fun.
They're so like
the question I ask in return is why can you only root for them if they're broke? Why are you pocket watching 18, 19-year-old kids? Why can you only root for them when they're broke? And then the other question I would have for the honorable Democratic senator from the state of West Virginia, Joe Manchin, is has he watched a college football game? Because the stands look pretty full to me most places, and the TV ratings this year through the freaking roof.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like people are struggling to get behind these kids now that they're making money and name, image, and likeness.
It was going to ruin the sport, Dan. Didn't you know that? 4 years ago, it was going to ruin the sport.
8.5 million people are watching Colorado football, not even that good of a team, and their coach and quarterback are in national commercials.
Nonstop.
All the time. How many times have you seen that KFC commercial with Shedeur Sanders?
A million. Or a godforsaken, what is it? Aflac commercial with Coach
Dion.
Prime and the animals.
Yeah, people don't seem to be having that stadium's full as hell.
And here's another one too. This is from Lindsey Graham, and again, bipartisan, Republican from South Carolina. Utah is offering everybody on the team a new truck. There's no end to this. Between the portal and NIL, college football is an absolute chaos. No, you know what's in chaos, dude? I can't afford groceries. Get your head out of your ass, you moron. And I don't care. Someone's going to get mad at me. I do not care. Make it so I can afford gas so I can commute to work and so I can put food on the table for my wife and I. You complete idiot.
You guys have a Speaker of the House yet?
Figure it out.
You talk about this?
Like, who cares? Why do I care that Cam Rising is a truck? Why?
I don't.
Lindsey Graham, call it 785-272-9429. Tell me right now on the phone, why do I care that Cam Rising gets a truck for 6 months he's enrolled at Utah? Tell me to my face. Why?
The other side of that question is
nothing.
Why do you care more if they're broke? Like if it's the purity of the competition and we only like it when the players can't get NIL money. We only like it when the players are broke. We only like watching 18 to 22-year-olds play sports if they can't make any money. Then why isn't Yager Stadium sold out and full to the brim and Lee Arena for every Washburn game? Why is it when Washburn and KU play on the same night, Allen Fieldhouse is full and Lee Arena is not?
Well, I think a lot of the reason for that is, KU's got a $30,000 alumni base in Washington.
But it's chaos now. We can't root for these kids because they're getting NIL money. I've got to go watch my college sports somewhere else. Well, it's not, you dopes.
Well, I was just more making the point of, KU's got a bigger alumni base.
For us local,
8 million people.
The thing for us locally too, like just to really center this home, like, let's take KU and K-State, shall we? Okay. What was I closed the quote because I was so mad about with the portal and NIL. This is chaos. All right, so if you're a Kansas State fan, in the last 2 years, you have had an immediate turnaround and resurgence of your basketball team. After 3 years of being completely lost in the wilderness at the end of the Weber era, you have now, in one season, completely changed the narrative and the production of your program, largely because of the transfer portal and NIL help. And you know how I know that? Because the most recent commit to Kansas State a veteran out of the portal, was originally committed to BYU and left because the NIL fell through. And he ended up at K-State. He didn't do that because of the brotherhood, folks. No. And that's okay. And the football team in the middle of the portal era and of the NIL era just won the Big 12, went to the Sugar Bowl. So like, if you're a K-State fan, my question, honest question, how could you be upset about this stuff? If you're a KU fan, let's be blunt. A lot of these great transfers.
Hunter Dickinson ain't coming to KU because he loves Bill Self.
No. That's just not happening, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. KU 2 years ago, thanks to some important transfers that came in, getting some guys. Remy Martin didn't come to KU just because he wanted to play at Allen Fieldhouse.
Well, he played well there.
He did, but that's not the only reason he came. Football team, same thing. I'm a big fan of Craig Young, right? Craig Young, really good player from Ohio State. Didn't get on the field at Ohio State. He could have gone to a number of Power 5 schools. He came to KU. I'm sure he liked Lance Leipold. I'm sure he liked Brian Borland. You know what he probably liked? Cash. And that's fine. That is totally fine.
Cash's last name?
No.
Money.
No. I'm talking about Greenback.
Cash Money. Yeah. Cash Money.
I don't get it. And I know that there are a lot of people. I don't care about Congress. They have no clue. And you know what's? I'm going to get in trouble for saying this.
It's shocking that they're out of touch.
But like, I saw someone tweet this earlier today. It really sinks in how little the people we elect know about what's going on when they start talking about something that you have an intimate knowledge about.
Yes.
Like, imagine if more people knew about like the American budget and how terrifying it would be. But before I get into any trouble or have to go on the show that's on from 11 to 2 on our airwaves, I'll get back to sports. But like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get why I am supposed to feel like this is a bad thing.
This is all across the entire Congress level. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Libertarian,
Whig,
whatever.
One of the Federalists.
The Know-Nothing Party.
None of them, any of them,
have a clue
what's going on in college football and how to figure it out. That's my problem. We're just wasting our tax dollars on this goes back to the NCAA.
Which of their constituents wants this? Like, what is the audience?
Presidents. Here's the audience that wants it. Presidents of the universities, and most of the time, people who are president of the university and chancellors are what? They're like 70 years old, and 70-year-old people don't like change. 70-year-old people want it to be like the 1980s. Okay, where what you got in return was an education for you playing a sport. Well, it just so happens that the world has changed. It is now a multi-billion-dollar business right now, okay? And therefore, things change. Just like everything in life evolves, but yet the presidents who are like right now, the president of Kansas State, how old is he? Like, I guarantee you he's upper 60s. What is Chancellor Douglas Girard? Like, he's upper 50s. Like, was it all of they just like
Doug Girard's actually 65.
65. He looks good for 65.
He does.
So that's my point. Like, most of these, it's a lot like the Krzyzewskis and the Roy Williams and the Jay Wrights. Why? Jay Wright basically said, I'm out of here because I ain't dealing with NIL and I ain't dealing with the portal. Okay?
Richard Linton is actually younger than Doug Girard.
No kid.
Yeah.
I would have.
He was born in 1964.
We have a texter from the 316 who points out that there is one senator by the name of Tommy Tuberville who he argues might understand college football. Counterpoint, Tommy Tuberville lost to Vanderbilt. I don't know that he understands much about much.
Tommy Tuberville took the Texas Tech job and got ran out real quick. But that's my point. Is that
which is fitting because Tommy Tuberville ran out of recruiting dinner so he could take the job.
Yeah,
he ran out on dinner with recruits at Cincinnati so he could take the job at Texas Tech.
That's where we're just at a disconnect with who's in charge.
Actually, that was the other way around. Sorry, he left Texas Tech to go to Cincinnati. Yeah, I had that back.
Which is wild, by the way. But that's where we're at right now. You know, and that's the problem is that you've got people like the Jack Swarbricks of the world couldn't see it coming when the train was on the tracks. The train was on the tracks. It was barreling downhill, and all that these ADs and the leadership of the NCAA, not the ADs, the presidents, because a lot of presidents don't listen to their ADs. It's really simple.
I'd say most don't.
If you would have just had any foresight, you would have put universal rules out there. But instead, you fought something that wasn't going to be in your favor. Remember, the Supreme Court ruled against the NCAA 9-0. Do you know how hard it is to get 9-0 on the Supreme Court?
In this Supreme Court?
I don't care if it's in the 1908 Supreme Court, you ain't doing it. Yet they did nothing. They could have just said, hey, let's find some rules. Let's find some legislation. This is what you can do. This is what you can do. There we go. And instead, it is a legit free-for-all, and every single state does it differently. Because what these presidents want is uniformity. Well, you had your chance at uniformity, but you were too stupid to get it done.
That's
what's frustrating.
That's why the person in charge of the NCAA right now is a former politician, the former governor of Massachusetts.
It's just
Charlie Baker.
Yeah, Charlie Baker.
Ridiculous.
This is what they hired him to do, to get within the walls or the halls, however you want to phrase it, of Congress and get them to sit down and talk about this and try and lobby for some sort of solution. So this is what you get. Like, this is part of the process. This is, like you said, this is what the presidents want. This is what they intended to happen when they hired Charlie Baker. It is a last desperate grasp at relevance as a governing body, and it's not going to work because, again, people don't care about this the way that the folks talking about it in the Senate today think that they care about it. The Colorado-Stanford game on Friday night was the most viewed Friday night college football game in 5 years.
And Stanford sucks.
Stanford is cheeks.
And they have no fan base. None.
3.3 million people watched that game on a Friday night. Friday night watching the Pac-12 after dark. People are not fleeing college sports in droves because the left guard at Utah drives a nice car now.
I mean, this is I think, and this is just my personal opinion, if you disagree, that's okay. But to me, a lot of the hand-wringing over NIL rights and the transfer portal, it sounds a lot to me like the NFL boycotts of 2017. I'm never watching the NFL again. They got too political. Yeah, you sure about that? Because a lot of people told me they were never watching the NFL again, and yet the TV ratings have only gone up.
Yeah.
Well, can I make one last point here? I know we've beaten this dead horse, but just proof that this is a sham. Like, even beyond the fact that none of these people actually have any clue what they're talking about, the fact that this whole thing was a sham, I would like to defer to the senator from Texas, Ted Cruz. And again, I'm not making a comment about anyone's politics here. I'm simply commenting on their comments on sports. This was about NIL, right? NIL rights and the money in college football. Well, Ted Cruz today made it a point to indicate that he does not understand targeting. And, quote, "It pisses me off," unquote. That's what we spent today. Ted Cruz was like, you know what? Let's talk about targeting. No! If you're going to talk about it, then talk about it, or just don't do it. And again, focus on other things that are more important.
Targeting.
It's just insane. It's a dog and pony show.
That's the issue at hand here, is targeting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I can't wait for Senator from Louisiana in the middle of one of these to say, you know what, by the way, I'm still mad about that 2018 NFC Championship game. Can we legislate the NFL referees, please? Like, it's just such a clown show.
It's a waste of their time. It's a waste of our time because we're the taxpayers. And it's fundamentally rooted in a misunderstanding of what their constituents want, because their constituents who like college football
want to see fun football,
love what's happening right now.
I also want the government to govern. Like making
big ask, Brendan.
Yeah, well,
coming up next, we will get
sorry, I'm talking on the wrong show here.
Our random question Tuesday, and then we'll talk with Kent Swanson, all things Chiefs. Because I saw a video of Kirk Cousins talking about how he listened to Creed before the game against the Bears, and that helped them win. And the reason he listened to Creed is because the Rangers right now are listening to Creed in the locker room. So I ask you this. What songs that you remember teams rallying around during their run, and is Creed the worst? I'll give you an example. In 2014, the Royals listened to, do you guys remember in 2014? 2015 was Fetty Wap. What was 2014? Do you remember in the playoffs?
Remember.
Oh, there was one. Yep. Danny Duffy mentioned it a bunch of times. He's like, we got to get hyped. We gotta get ready. We need to get going.
It's gonna bug me until you say it, because I remember now what you're talking about, but it can't come up with it.
We ready.
Oh, Archie Eversole, yeah. R.I.P. to Archie. He died not too long ago.
I was like, guys, we're not pumped up enough. And Danny Duffy in 2014 was like, man, we used to get pumped up to this song, and it was Archie Eversole. If we ready, So like that's a fun. I can see that one. Fetty Wap, all right. Creed. So I ask you, what do you got?
Creed's pretty bad. That's kind of makes
with
it like
arms wide open.
on the one hand, you have the Astros, who are still hated by a wide swath. I don't know if it's a majority, but it's certainly a substantial swath of Major League Baseball fans. Jake included,
Jake, do you not like them?
For their role in a cheating scandal?
I hadn't heard.
Fans. On the other hand, you have the Rangers listening to Creed, and I think that makes the Astros the lesser of two evils, frankly. So that was pretty bad.
And I'm trying to think.
What did the Cubs listen to? Like, did they have anything?
They didn't really have one.
Okay.
No, they didn't have one. Packers didn't have one when they last won a championship. None of my favorite teams have ever had anything like that. My teams are more worried about winning than memes. So
no, we're more worried about vibes, man.
It's not really the team, but when they won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago, the Colorado Avalanche, their fans would sing along to All the Small Things by Blink-182.
Yeah, I do remember that.
During the third period, when games were in the bag, it would be something that the DJ would play without like 5-6 minutes left in the game during a face-off or before a face-off, and the crowd would sing along, and they continued to sing along as play resumed, and that really caught on.
Okay. From the text line, 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates. We are family.
I know,
we are family.
Yeah.
That might be the most famous one.
The St. Louis Blues had
Gloria,
because that's their goal scoring song, right?
Well, no, it wasn't. It was just they would play it after wins. I don't. Maybe it did become their goal song.
That was kind of cool.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, if you're calling it like that. I mean, I guess the Cubs have Go Cubs Go.
Yeah, but that's not.
They play that after every win every year, though.
But that's
that's
not
different.
something that's
yeah.
totally unique. Whereas like We Ready and
It's like
Fetty Wap
when the Steelers went to the Super Bowl. I think it was the year they lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl. But Black and Yellow by Wiz Khalifa just came out.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So they-
that was
like,
a good one.
I think he performed at the AFC
Yeah.
Championship game that year.
Yeah.
I don't think the Chiefs have had one.
Fight for your right to party. It's their touchdown song now
That's true.
because
But we didn't
that
know
was what-
about that.
that was what Travis Kelce just kind of came up with.
When he was yelling and screaming into a microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, we just didn't know about that one until after the fact.
Yeah.
Cut a promo
Yeah,
You know,
after that was the first. That was the first AFC Championship.
like
game.
West Virginia Country Road, but that's what they do every game.
Right.
Like it's not a specific like the Rangers they're playing Creed. Like, can you take me higher? Like
That's a pretty terrible Scott Stapp. I have to.
I'm
I have to say.
I'm not claiming to be, but I just I think I sang the
Tyler on.
yeah, they did.
Stop believing.
Don't stop believing.
Yeah.
For me, what's your favorite pro wrestling move?
Oh, the sharpshooter. Oh man,
Yeah.
the sharpshooter or the DDT.
Yeah.
Sharpshooter. Oh God, I love the sharpshooter.
Back in my my backyard wrestling days, I used the sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter, no question. That and the Razor's Edge, man.
Razor's
Yeah.
Edge. Is very
Oh,
cool.
Razor's Edge was good. You got to flick the
The toothpick.
right before you do it. That was back in the 90s, baby. Loved it. Yeah, those are my two favorites.
The Tombstone pile driver was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you cross the hands,
Yeah.
you pin them like they were dead.
Yeah.
That was.
I'll give
that
you
was
one
hard.
more. Sweet Chin Music, because I was a big HBK fan.
Yeah.
Wow. Just
Um,
right in the chin.
I always thought
Fantastic.
like there's cool as in like visibly like a cool like looking move.
Yeah.
And then there's like cool in the sense that you feel like that would actually have really hurt.
Yeah.
And like so like the pedigree actually looked like it would hurt
Yeah.
Triple H's finisher. But like the coolest one visually, shooting star press.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
That's the backflip off the top rope.
Oh
Anyway.
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Brock Lesnar like completely destroyed his neck doing it one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sharpshooter's a good one. Any power bomb. Good power bomb. Here's a solid move. I like a good DDT too. You can do it so many different ways. The original though, Jake the Snake, still probably the best one.
Jake the Snake. Yeah.
Jake the Snake Roberts. He's still kicking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still on TV.
Yeah.
AEW, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's not still performing.
I
Is he?
don't believe he has actually wrestled recently, but he
He did.
is
He had the
that
DDT
with
man.
them. Yeah.
That dude did so many drugs. Like I would be stunned.
The for a more modern audience, the RKO is great, Randy Orton, but the original, the Diamond Cutter, DDP, yeah,
Yep.
that's
All right. Yeah. What do you
beautiful.
got for your random question?
What is your go-to order if you go out for Italian food?
Chicken marsala.
That's a good choice.
oh man, my go-to.
Like if I don't, if nothing, piques my interest.
So if you're going out,
safe.
yeah,
Chicken marsala.
say you're in a brand new city and you want Italian and you like look up and you find like a well-reviewed Italian place within your budget, not like 5-star dining or anything like that. Just
Yeah. You want to go
solid,
safe.
solid Italian food. You know you're gonna like it. What's your go-to order?
That's a chicken marsala.
Man, it's either chicken parm or a chicken Alfredo.
Parm's a good choice.
Yeah, it's probably chicken parm.
Okay.
Love chicken parm.
I either go, chicken parm is a good choice, or I really like ziti.
Oh
Like
yeah,
a baked ziti, especially if I can get like some sausage with it.
yeah.
Like if I get, my wife and I might go out to Italian tonight.
Okay. So essentially, you're asking, what should I get for dinner?
Yeah, it's
Hon, guess what? I found out what we're doing for dinner tonight.
we're moving towards it not being a mite as I'm talking about it. So
Coming up next, Ken Swanson joins us to talk all things Chief.
sportsnetwork.com. Check him out on Twitter at Kent_Swanson. Kent, the red zone has been a spot of bother for the Chiefs, particularly in their most recent contest against the Denver Broncos. What things do you think the Chiefs can do to address their issues, or are you not concerned that it's going to be a long-term problem that they should be able to get the red zone ironed out?
Yeah, I kind of look at the red zone issues, and I kind of look at some of their short yardage issues in very similar light, right? And, I think it's always been, they keep things very broad and experimental when it comes to, what they're trying to accomplish in some of those, key situations with short yardage and in the red zone. And, it's a slow burn. It's a slow build to try to figure things out, whether or not they have the talent on the field or not, right? Whether it's a different group. And there's been some struggles in the past at times with this organization trying to solve the red zone issue. I think it's just a matter of, as this whole group kind of builds and develops, they're going to solve the problem. It's a long problem that they try to solve, and they will have their best foot forward in the big moments in some of these games coming down, in January and February. It matters. It's just, I'm not overly stressed because I think we've seen this team kind of pull themselves out of some of their struggles. But it obviously, you'd like to just see execution across the board for 17 straight weeks. But, they're going to continue to show a lot of things and force a lot of teams to prepare for a variety of different things within the red zone. And eventually, when it comes time down, they're going to have their best foot forward when it matters most. But it is going to be frustrating, I think, at times for sure.
You spoke already about the defense and the level that they've performed at for the first 6 weeks. And now they get Charles Omenihu back. And that was a signing that I was particularly really high on when the Chiefs brought him in this offseason. I see him as being a Michael Bennett type player for this Chiefs defense who can be impactful from the edge and from the interior, especially if he's being single teamed while Chris Jones is being double teamed. What elements do you see Omenihu bringing to this defense? Do you think he takes this pass rush up to a level where the Chiefs are going to be able to win with four more often?
Absolutely. I think, I know I talked about this defensive line, I think has played well, but I do think obviously there's been some struggles with them getting home with four in some recent games and some recent sample size. I think that's where Charles Omenihu really steps up and makes a big impact. And like his impact will not just be his pure ability to win as a one-on-one pass rusher, along the interior on the edge, which he definitely will. It's, the ability to run the games up front, the athleticism, the physicality, the density, to really make an impact in the games that they can run up front. Like I like the idea of what they can mix and match with a Mike Dana and a Charles Omenihu and a Chris Jones along, running up and down that offensive line, or, up and down that offensive line in different spots, just being a lineup over different guys, kind of pick their poison and kind of identify some games that they can kind of run with those three up front. That's where I'm very fascinated is just kind of what they're able to do, not just with their, straight rush with four, but just, how they're able to kind of diversify their stunts and their twists and what kind of problems they can kind of create for that.
Sorry to whipsaw you between offense and defense and now back to offense, but I wanted to ask, you spoke about the wide receiver room and that the wide receivers haven't performed to the level that they need to for the Chiefs to be the upper echelon offense that they appear capable of being. I want to ask in particular about Sky Moore. Are you out on Sky Moore here midway through year two, or are you seeing some signs that eventually his games are going to be less about, getting his steps in and filling his circles on his Apple Watch and more about actually producing?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm overly, I don't know if I'm out on Sky Moore necessarily, but to say I'm not concerned wouldn't be true either. And, I think, it's kind of been weird to see the discourse around Sky Moore, on social media and some people citing, certain plays as examples of, well, he's open and some of those kind of things. And, I think there's a lot of context missing from some of those things. So you got to try to parse through context clues. Like, it looks like he's been inconsistent with some of his route depth. He might be, drifting upfield at times, and that's something you don't want to happen. And, the quarterback's throwing to 12 and you're drifting to 13. that's not a good indicator. That's not going to instill trust. I think the biggest concern for me, though, I think on top of some of that, is the inability to separate against man coverage, and it seems like that's been a big problem for him to this point. Some of the sharp breaking routes, he's just not showing the ability to do that, and they're trying to line him up outside a little bit more and run a more diverse route tree than some of the other guys that are doing this. But man, he seems to be struggling to try to create consistent separation. I think that's where I'm concerned the most.
We're talking with Ken Swanson of the KC Sports Network. You can follow him on Twitter at Kent_Swanson. We've got the trade deadline coming up in 2 weeks. Do you see the Chiefs being active at all? But also, do they maybe, kick the tires on Frank Clark? Do they kick the tires on Carlos Dunlap? Do they look at making a trade? What do you think happens for the Chiefs at the trade deadline?
As far as Frank Clark, I think he's going to be back in some capacity. They might be able to just leave him on the practice squad for a stretch of this season while they let kind of some of the situation at the defensive line figure itself out. Maybe there's some injuries that get him called in soon, but he could be sitting on the practice squad, for a little bit, kind of chilling there and kind of wait until January, right, to try to get him ramped back up and ready for the season. We'll see if maybe that's a route they employ. As far as the trade deadline is concerned, there's one name that I'm keeping an eye on as a very low cost move they could potentially make, and I don't know if they for sure will. I don't even know if he's actually going to be on the market, but New England Patriots are one of the worst offenses in football, and right now they're one of the worst teams in the National Football League, and they paid Juju Smith-Schuster a little bit of money, but the Chiefs could acquire Juju Smith-Schuster for about $1 million on the cap. Of cap space in a draft pick. So he's a guy that could actually fit within the salary cap for this team. And honestly, I think he's a guy that I don't know if he may not even be the same Juju Smith-Schuster as last year, but as a guy that wins in the areas that Patrick Mahomes likes to throw the football, and as a guy that has some chemistry built up with Patrick Mahomes, getting him for the stretch run could be a nice little addition, just a little bit more stability to that room. Because I just don't know if there's going to be any big opportunities there for the taking, for them to try to identify a player that can step in, make a huge impact and, kind of ramp up that chemistry that is kind of required with Mahomes. He had it with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think I'd almost rather the consistency and the familiarity that Juju has with some of the other potential options that could be out there at the trade deadline.
Got a couple questions for the future. I mentioned this, how good this defense is playing. It's playing exceptional, second in points allowed per game, but they might be without two of their best players next year. You can argue the two best players on the defense are Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. It's kind of wild that their two best players might not be back next year. What do you see for the future? Any chance Jones comes back? And if they don't spend money on Jones, could they spend money on Sneed, or do they just let him go? What do you think happens with those two guys?
Well, I think it's going to be, I think those are super interesting questions for different reasons. So with Chris Jones, I think what he wants and what he expects contractually is going to be difficult for the Chiefs to match, especially since I think his career year might have been last year. And this season he played well, don't get me wrong. And obviously he's playing through some injuries that might be hampering him a little bit, but the down and down consistency isn't the same as it was last year. When Chris Jones put together an all-pro season. So he's been very good, don't get me wrong, but I do think he might have taken a step back from last year. So do you pay a declining player the kind of money that he expects? I don't think so. I think they're probably going to move on from him. I don't know if it's a tag and trade scenario or if they just let him walk and try to get him added to the compensatory pick formula in some capacity. L'Jarius Sneed, the Chiefs really probably could withstand losing him because of the depth that they have in the secondary at this point. But also he's a good player. And, if you have the money to do it because you're not paying Chris Jones, I could see them pulling the trigger on trying to get an extension done with L'Jarius Sneed. It's going to be interesting because he is going to be an older second-year contract player. He was 24 years old for the majority of his rookie year. And he's had some injury history. So, just depending on the number that he ultimately gets, I could see some teams investing heavily in him and taking a big swing on a little bit of an injury risk and an age risk. But, if not, if the number is reasonable, I think the Chiefs could very easily bring him back and just continue to build into that secondary.
Alrighty, last few questions. What is the Chiefs' record this year, and what seed do they get in the playoffs?
All this weeping and gnashing of the teeth with the offense, and the Chiefs are going to go 14-3, and they're going to be the 1 seed in the AFC.
This is where we're at right now, Chiefs fans. I always say that the regular season now is a means to an end, and Travis Kelce said that last year, I think, is what he said.
Yeah.
It's just get the best possible seed you can, and then it's go time in the playoffs, which is we're spoiled already when it comes to Chiefs fans. We are already spoiled with the Kansas City Chiefs. Alrighty. If I'm going to get you on the air, I'm going to ask you a Taylor Swift question because how do I not, right? What is your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Oof. I probably should have this prepared, right? It's probably sentimentally, it's Welcome to New York, just because my kid watched Secret Life of Pets so much, and so like that kind of song just kind of stuck in my head all the time. And it just reminds me of simpler times. So I'll probably go with that. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift listener, though, if I'm being honest. But I'll go Welcome to New York.
Well, Kent, we always appreciate the time. By the way, your kid has great taste. That's a fantastic movie, by the way. My kid just got through that phase. It's kind of funny. The kids go through phases of movies where they watch the same movie like every single day for about a 2-week span, and you just keep moving on. My kid's right now is The Incredibles. He wants to watch that all the time, so I'm okay with that as well. Kent, we appreciate the time as always. Have yourself a great rest of the day.
Yeah, you guys too. Appreciate you.
Ken Swanson from the KC Sports Network. Secret Life of Pets.
Never seen that one.
Pretty good. There's a unique hot dog scene in that movie.
That is a frightening sentence.
Yeah, I don't like anything about that sentence.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's not that kind of unique because it's a kid's movie, but still, don't like that sentence.
Where's that Secret Life of Pets 2 that's got the wild hot dog scene?
I don't know. Let's use the internet. I will Google.
What if he's thinking of Sausage Party?
No.
I think this is the regular one.
Yeah,
from 2016.
It
yeah,
it's the first one. Yeah.
Sausage Factory
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Okay.
Really
Yeah,
weird.
that's enough.
It's really weird.
I've been to a couple parties you could call a Sausage Factory.
Yeah, really weird. But yeah, my kid's really into The Incredibles right now, which I'm A-okay with.
Yeah. The original one?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Remember when I was a kid, mine was 101 Dalmatians. I watched that movie a lot.
Okay.
I watched Toy Story a lot.
We already went through the Toy Story phase. We just picked out our Halloween costumes.
Yeah?
Yep.
What are you going to be?
Son is going to be Mufasa because he likes Mufasa. I am going to be Pumbaa. My daughter is going to be Timon because she has a stuffed meerkat and she wants to be a meerkat. And then my wife is going to be Rafiki.
That's perfect.
Okay.
There you
Everything
go.
about that is great.
Yeah.
That's good.
You'll see pictures coming up.
And wait, which one was your son?
He's going to be Mufasa.
He's going to be Mufasa. Okay.
He wanted me to be Scar. I'm like, no.
No.
No. You can't be Mufasa.
There's a pathology there. That
And
you
I'm not gonna
you
be
can't go
Scar.
too far down that
I
road.
said, and then I said, well, should I be Pumbaa? He's like, yeah, Pumbaa. You be the pig. I said, okay.
And then you were like, he's a warthog.
Well, in the movie, he gets very offended when you say, hey, who brought the pig? They called me Mr. Pig. We shouldn't have done that. When Timon gets in there.
Yeah.
Him and Zazu are in the...
Yeah.
Okay. Coming up, we will get to a little K-State news. What does Chris Kleiman have to say about the quarterback spot? We'll get to that coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday. Jacob Bond, Brandon Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you. Thanks for stopping by. Want to thank Ken Swanson for coming by, talking all things Chiefs. Thanks, Frank Clark will be on the practice squad at some point in time. Not worried about the Chiefs' offense. Has no weaknesses, according to Kent, on the Chiefs' defense. Good stuff from Ken Swanson of the KC Sports Network. Talk all things KU. Michael Swain coming up at the bottom of the hour. Don't forget, let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Also, check us out on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Click on it, and you can see all of our previous videos. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We'd appreciate that. Big news today for the Kansas State Wildcats. Chris Kleiman had a press conference today. He was asked, who is your starting quarterback? He said, doesn't know right now. He also mentioned that it's Tuesday. We don't know, what quarterback will fit the game plan. We'll just have to wait and see. A lot of things can happen. But I feel good because I've got two quarterbacks who can play and who can help us win. When asked about, can Avery Johnson throw the ball a little bit more and execute the passing game? He said, yes, he did at the end of the game, and we feel that he can do everything that he needs to. So Chris Kleiman going with it is Tuesday. We don't know who's going to play on Saturday yet. Who's going to start?
They know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they know.
Both of them are going to play, because if he was worried about how one quarterback would handle it, he would say, no, Will Howard is our starting quarterback. We will use Avery Johnson as a changeup or when we deem is needed. That is what a potential answer could have been, which would have squashed everything and said, well, we're going to go with Will until, we see the adjustments or see if we need something else. But he didn't. He went with we don't know yet. It is Tuesday, which to me says Avery's going to play. We just don't know if it's going to be starting, if the keys are handed over or what. But I do know that he is going to take more than a series. Otherwise, because Chris Kleiman has said in the past a lot, if you look back at it, no, he is our quarterback. This is our quarterback. This is our starting quarterback. We are going with him. Well, even last year, what did he say? Adrian is our starting quarterback. He is going to be the quarterback until Adrian got hurt and couldn't go anymore. Will Howard ain't hurt. Avery's not hurt. And he went with it's early. It is Tuesday. That tells me that Avery's playing. If not, he might end up getting the bulk of the reps. Which, if he can execute the passing game, then he's your quarterback. He is your quarterback. Who has the higher ceiling?
My name is Avery Johnson.
Yes, easily Avery Johnson.
It is Avery Johnson.
It's not even close.
It is Avery Johnson to me. I do think that in the game against Texas Tech, you saw what the ceiling can be. The ceiling can be, holy smokes, right? That's the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
I also can see that if the running game does get shut down and the passing game does not work, that they go away from Avery Johnson, because Will can still run. I mean, people forget he had a 76-yard run,
70-yard run against Oklahoma State.
He's understands, and he's seen a lot more football when it comes to the coverage unit and that type of thing. So it might be you ride with Avery Johnson until he struggles if you can't move the ball. And then you can always go with Will Howard as the guy who, hey, you know what? He's seen it. He knows the offense a lot better. He's got more of the playbook. Let's go with Will Howard. That's kind of how I wonder if that's not they're going to operate it. But man, Kleiman likes to go with the veteran.
I think most college coaches probably
want to go with the veteran. And that's why I would start Avery. I had said that I go with the highest ceiling. He's the future of your program. thank you, Will, for what you've done. But I would start Avery Johnson because he's your starting quarterback for the next 3 years.
Maybe. At least the next 2. Depends on how good he is.
So that's why I would always play with the highest thing. You can always go, like right now, Avery Johnson's like the driver. Hey, I can really pump it out there to 350. Can it get a little loose? Can I get a little wild with it? Yes. But guess what I can always do? Oh, the driver not working? Dial it back, hit the 3-wood. 3-wood's Will Howard. Not a bad situation to be in. So I would start Avery Johnson, which is wild because we had a texter the other day say, well, should we put in Avery? And I was like, there's no way that they're going to put in Avery. I did not expect the Top Fuel Dragster to come out of the shop looking that good. I didn't.
Here's the precedent, though. And I think it's important to kind of look at that because that gives you an indication as to what Chris Kleiman might be thinking. Just go back to last year. Martinez gets hurt in the TCU game. Howard comes out and plays better than we could have ever fathomed him playing before he then got hurt in that game.
Jake really came in through one pass and was picked off.
Yeah, that didn't go great for old they didn't go great for old
Rubes.
Yeah. Anyway, they lose that game. The next week, Martinez is hurt. Will Howard starts. That's the Oklahoma State game. Will Howard drops a 48-point anvil on what was at the time the number 9 team in the country. No start of the Texas game. A healthy Adrian Martinez. And K-State plays well in that game. And Martinez didn't play bad.
They couldn't stop Bijan.
But they got beat. They almost rallied back. Like, if they had scored on the final drive of the game, and if they'd won, I don't know where it goes from there. Probably stay with Adrian Martinez. But they lost that game, and then it was Howard at Baylor and Howard the rest of the way. But that was, it's important to note, I think, an injury situation where you didn't want to Wally Pip a guy like Martinez who had the respect of that locker room because of an injury. You didn't want to say, oh, you got hurt and that's how you lost your job. They gave him one more opportunity to stake his claim and show that he was the guy, and they lost to Texas. And it wasn't because Martinez was terrible, but it was because it wasn't quite good enough. And they had seen what it was with Martinez, and they had seen what it was with Howard in that 2-week sample, Oklahoma State and Texas, and they decided, if we're going to get where we need to go, or where we want to go, it's got to be Will Howard. And it was Will Howard the rest of the way, and the rest is history. It's up on the wall and everything. Big 12 champions. So this year, it's different because there's no injury, right? But have we really seen what it's going to look like with Avery Johnson for 60 minutes against a team geared towards stopping him? I don't know if we've seen that yet.
A team that knows what could be coming. Because
Yes.
Texas Tech clearly had no idea.
Yeah, Texas Tech wasn't ready for that. TCU is going to be ready for it. And in that capacity, because I don't think TCU is as good a team as Texas Tech, frankly. But in
Don't ask BYU that.
Yeah, BYU, well, they're a newcomer. All the newcomers think, yeah. It's like the kid that moves from the small town to the suburb, and they think every new restaurant they find is like the coolest thing, or everything to do is the coolest thing because they're just overwhelmed by the newness of it all, the bigness of it all. I think, and at the risk of rambling, I'll cut it short. I do not think that we are going to see a full-on passing of the torch this week, but I do think that over the that there are going to be a lot of Avery Johnson in this game Saturday, and that will be done with an eye on making Avery Johnson the permanent starter later on.
I think Howard starts, and I think Avery Johnson plays more than 2 or 3 series.
I feel like my official opinion on the game is somewhat irrelevant because I know Kleiman's not going to do it. But I hate playing 2 quarterbacks. I hate it. I think it worked. Well, I mean, Howard was just not all that great, and they clearly had a hot hand going. But Texas Tech was just not prepared at all for Avery Johnson. I mean, they had no idea what was hitting them. So that's a little bit different. But I just hate playing 2 quarterbacks. I think it makes things way too obvious. I think it hurts the rhythm. I think it hurts both the rhythm for the guys on the field and the rhythm of your play calling too. I think it creates more issues than you should be creating for yourself. And again, I understand that this is effectively a moot point because if they want to play both, they're going to do it. And this coaching staff being they have been comfortable doing it in the past. So I understand that my personal feelings don't really make an influence here. I do just wish they would pick one and stick with them, though. I think that's better long-term.
The other part that's different from last year is that Martinez and Howard were very similar players. Big guys. They weren't, Martinez probably faster than Howard, but they were similar in terms of their running ability and similar in terms of their build and similar in terms of Howard had more experience then than Avery Johnson does now. So you had two experienced quarterbacks who'd started games, and they decided that Howard was a better version, that it was an upgrade. You're talking about two very different quarterbacks stylistically right now. One who is more run forward, one who is more pass forward. And the decision might just be made by this Kansas State team is better off if they're a run first football team. And they're a better team with Avery Johnson, not because he's a better quarterback, full stop, but because he's the better leader for this offense, given their personnel.
He's definitely a more unique quarterback than the two last year's. A great comparison. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's 6'6", 250 in Will Howard. And then you've got Avery Johnson, who's 6'2", what is he listed at, 190? And the announcer said that he was one of, if not the fastest player on the team. That's good and bad.
What's the bad?
The bad is that your quarterback shouldn't be the fastest guy on your team. You should have some speed elsewhere.
Sometimes the quarterback is the fastest guy on your team. Michael Vick was the fastest guy in that Virginia Tech team back in the day.
You just named a unicorn.
KU's fastest player is its backup quarterback.
Bean is the fastest. Like we've heard that from other people.
Yeah. Yes, but also,
what other quarterbacks do you think were the fastest guy? Like, you think Pat White was the fastest guy in those West Virginia teams?
No, Divine got to be faster than White.
Divine was, but he was faster than Slayton. Might have been.
You should have a DB or a wide receiver faster than your quarterback.
Yeah, but I think that's true if your quarterback is running like a 4.6. But Avery has different speed.
And that's the reason why, like, it's the ceiling factor. It's the home run hit. Like, he would have had 6 touchdowns if he didn't slide down at the end of the game against Texas Tech. Ain't nobody was catching him once he got past the first down marker and he slid down. That would have been 6 tutties.
Here's a fun stat for you. Avery Johnson has 6 rushing touchdowns. That is tied for the lead in the Big 12 conference this year. Can you name the 5 players he's tied with?
I believe. Is he ahead or Neil? Neil. He got a 6. Yeah.
Neil's got 6.
Giddens?
Nope. Neil is not the only Jayhawk.
Highshaw.
Daniel Highshaw.
The cat from Texas.
Jonathan Brooks.
Brooks.
There are 2 others.
Someone from like Houston.
No. One of the newcomer schools, but not Houston.
Emory Jones.
No. RJ Harvey from Central Florida.
Yeah.
And then the 6th guy is? It's Will Howard.
Interesting.
Will Howard.
They have 12 rushing touchdowns from their quarterback this year. This is such a K-State team.
It really is.
I really love that for them.
I don't know. I just wish they would go. I just wish that you'd pick one and go with it.
I will say this. This is the one type of situation where if you want to have 2, I can at least have some defense with it. And the reason why is because they are 2 completely different quarterbacks. He is a bullet shot out of a gun, whereas Howard is the more traditional quarterback who can run. That's why they're different. Like, yeah, that's the only. If you want to do a little change of pace situation, I can. That's defensible. It is defensible. If
you're just showing your
hand
hands so much, though. Like Howard gets the start this week. All right, Play the hypothetical game here. Howard gets to start against TCU. Second quarter, 2nd down and 6 at the 50-yard line. Avery Johnson's coming into the game. It doesn't mean that TCU is going to stop quarterback power, but I don't even know who their defensive coordinator is off the top of my head. He's saying, we know exactly what they're doing. They could give us the playbook. We know exactly what is happening. Whereas I think if you just stuck with Avery Johnson, that eliminates that. That even if you're only throwing 15 times, totally eliminates that because you're opening the playbook so much more.
The only thing is they know it's coming. Just like triple option, you know it's coming. Can you stop it? Just because you know it's coming, you still got to execute. Your defense still has to execute.
More exposure to it, though, makes it more likely you are going to stop it. You know how I know that? Go check Navy's record the last 4 years.
Navy also doesn't have Avery Johnson.
True.
They don't have that type of athlete. So
East Carolina doesn't have the kind of bodies TCU has, though.
So that's why if there is at least, I can put together a defense for doing both. That is something that is different than Adrian Martinez, and Will Howard. If you play both of them, that's dumb. Makes no sense, right? Not any sense whatsoever. But I still think Howard's going to start and they're going to play. That's what Chris Kleiman does.
I think they're going to play them both too. But I think this game they're going to open more of the playbook up for Avery Johnson. If he shows he can handle more of that passing game, then I think they'll segue toward him being the guy full time as the second half of the season wears on.
Coming up, we got What Is Wrong With You, and then we will talk all things KU football.
Let's find our daily winner in What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan and Dan. Brought to you, as always, by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner for the week through one day, it is the convoluted car sale. The woman who had her car stolen, she was looking to sell it. Let the 16-year-old prospective buyer who met up with her go for a test drive alone. He stole the car. The original woman then found out that kid was trying to sell the car online, so she decided to set up her own sting operation. Met him at a gas station, I believe it was, and she got out of the car. He realized, the jig is up. Slashed the tire.
Shot at the tire.
Emptied the clip in the tire, and then ran off. He has since been arrested. The gun not recovered, which is odd.
Yeah, dump the gun.
Apparently was not going to reveal where that had ended up. So that is our winner so far for the week. My story is going to take us to Florida, near Tampa Bay, Pinellas County, Florida, to be exact, where a woman is now spending time behind bars after she left 2 young children unattended on a beach.
No.
According to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, the 41-year-old lawyer took 2 girls aged 3 and 7 to Upham Beach in the town of St. Pete Beach and then vanished. Witnesses say they saw the children by themselves for at least half an hour on October 7th on a Saturday morning after the woman had got back in her car and drove away. When the youngest of the 2 began to wade into waist-deep water for a 3-year-old, that is way too deep, the witness called the police and watched over the girls until they arrived. Another account of this story, by the way, indicated that the children were like, no, we're fine. And the woman said, no. You stay with me. Both of you stay right here with me. The suspect told police that she had been parking the car, but was then booked into Pinellas County Jail on 2 counts of neglect of a child without great bodily harm. I think that's fair to say. While being processed, though, the suspect was, quote, acting nervous and fidgeting. Deputies later found a vape pen containing a liquid substance as she went through the x-ray, tacking on another charge of introducing or possessing contraband in a county detention facility. The Clearwater woman declined to comment to the Tampa Bay Times about the arrest. Her relationship with the children is described as caregiver on the police report. She was released a day later on $15,000 bond.
Man, parking the car doesn't take half an hour, first of all.
Nope.
Second of all, you know who can sit with you in the car while you park the car? The children that you're supposed to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
You just leave them on the beach and go do whatever it is you got. That's terrible.
As you learned this summer while you were on vacation, the beach can be treacherous.
Yes. The ocean is menacing and it will kill you.
Especially if you're that small.
Yes, the ocean is menacing and remorseless, and if it got the chance, it would kill you and everyone you care about. Don't mess with the ocean.
A 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. That's crazy. Truly, truly crazy. And she should go into jail for much longer than just one day.
Yeah, this is one of the all-time, like sometimes we come across stories that just makes you mad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them. We got a text from 785 that said, this woman deserves to be left in the middle of the ocean by herself.
Yeah.
And I can't argue with that.
We also have one from Mark on YouTube who just says, this lady sucks bad. Yeah, she does. Big time.
Mark has a gift for summing things up.
Very
that's succinctly.
Incredibly accurate.
Nailed it.
All right, Dan, what do you got for today?
We're going to Franklin Township, which is in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, where investigators say they arrested a former officer after he threatened an animal refuge with a gun.
Oh.
According to Pennsylvania State Police, Sunday around 2:40 p.m., troopers were called to investigate a man who arrived at Blue Chip Animal Refuge. Police say the man went to the shelter looking for his dog that was allegedly being kept there. While on the property, the man, later identified as 33-year-old Antonio Oriolo of Sugar Notch, what a town name, Sugar Notch, Pennsylvania, confronted the employees with a gun in his pocket, partially exposing himself, and demanded his dog.
How do you partially expose yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, was that a gun in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Yeah, I'm not even sure how that works.
Was the gun so heavy in his pocket that it was sagging his pants down to his drawers and he wasn't wearing drawers? Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
He showed up anyway, and he had the blicky, and he said, "Give me back my dog!" Like Mel Gibson in Ransom. He hit him with a "Give me back my dog!" And PSP noted that Oriolo showed a badge from the Whitehaven Police Department and an ID card from Wilkes University Police, neither of which currently employ him.
Uh-oh.
Not anymore.
I can't believe that.
Anyhow. Yeah.
Truly.
I guess he didn't have to give back his badge? I thought that was the whole thing. Like, when you're off the force, give me your badge. He didn't have to give his badge?
Apparently not.
He must have been honorably discharged. Maybe you get to keep your badge some places. Anyway, yeah, he showed off his badge. He showed off an ID card, said he was police. And, he's not employed either department. So Oriolo has been charged with impersonating a public servant, trespassing, firearms not to be carried, and harassment. He was released from prison on a $5,000 unsecured bail. I'm not gonna lie. The part that made me laugh about this was thinking about him doing Mel Gibson from Ransom. Give me back my dog.
That's pretty funny. All right, so I got a couple thoughts about this story. One of them, not really related to the crime itself. I need Scott Van Pelt and Tim Kirkjian on the name Antonio Oriolo.
Antonio Oriolo.
Oriolo. And Tim Kirkjian going, funniest laugh in TV history.
One of the great bits of all time.
So that in and of itself is very funny. The town of Sugar Notch, awesome name. Did he think this was going to work? That's what I often ask myself with a lot of our stories, especially things where guys are doing dumb things with guns and apparently partial nudity as well. Did you think this was going to work? Did you really think that you were going to be in the, get the high ground here when you came up with this plan?
So, why did he think he needed a gun and a badge to get his dog back? Why did they take the dog? If it was a totally like the dog ran away, maybe, and it, it was the refuge was sheltering it, so he just went to go pick up his dog, then I would understand it. But clearly, that dog is being held and kept from you, clearly for a very good reason. Clearly, you are not the kind of person who should be maybe even having a dog, and that dog is better off without you. And hopefully that dog finds a new owner who won't impersonate a police officer.
That's so funny. Impersonating a public servant after you were a paid public servant.
Yeah.
Very funny crime to get charged with. All right. 2 good ones today. Who we got?
Give me back my dog.
Yeah, we can go with that one. I still am curious how you even... There are just so many questions that are raised by this story. How do you only partially expose yourself? I shouldn't be so hung up on that, but I really am. Right. All right, I'm good with that one for today. Does that knock off the convoluted car sale?
I do not think so, because there's what is wrong with you on all sides for that one.
I love stories like that.
I do too.
No, that's a good one. That'll remain our winner for the week. The convoluted car sale in Petaluma, California. That is our winner in What Is Wrong With You. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, and they sponsor today and every day our What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got a break to get to, but coming up on the other side of this timeout, we will be joined by our good pal Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports for Jayhawk Weekly. A lot to get to on the KU football front. How much concern should there be for the football team following a loss to Oklahoma State and now a bye, and you got to play Oklahoma after the bye? Some thoughts on the second half of the season for KU. We will also touch on Big 12 basketball media day coming up tomorrow. The AP poll came out this week. Big 12 preseason honors, all that. It's coming up with Michael Swain on the other side of this break right here on 580 Sports Talk.
Give me back my dog.
It's time for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan and Dan, and we welcome in our good pal Michael Swain from Fog.net. Nobody covers the Kansas Jayhawks better. Go to Fog.net for all of Michael's coverage of all things KU, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and you can follow him as well at mswain247 on Twitter. What's going on, Michael? How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys doing to start the week?
Doing good. Doing well. Excuse me. Pardon my lack of adverb there. We're doing well. Thank you so much for asking. We'll get to some basketball coming up here in a bit because Big 12 Media Day coming up tomorrow, AP poll, preseason Big 12 honors. Those have all come out in the last several days. So we'll touch on that here in just a little bit. But let's start on the football side of things. Tough one for KU on Saturday. Had chance after chance after chance to put that game away and just were not able to do so. If there's one thing, Michael, you can point to as the reason why KU couldn't close that game out, what would it be?
I mean, you can't turn the ball over on the road and expect to win. I think that's the biggest thing. And, it's hard to look at this game, right? Because I think on one hand, you look at it and say, yeah, this is a game KU probably should have won. And then on the other hand, I look at it and I look at the last 6 times KU's gone to Stillwater and they've lost by an average score of 53-13. And this game was so different than I think any of those other games where KU for the middle 2 quarters, I'd argue, was the better team. But when it came down to the stretch run, I think Oklahoma State made the right plays in the right moments. That's turnovers, that's play calls. I think the way that they adjusted late in the game to try and defend KU's offense was really smart. So it's one of these where, on one hand, right, winning road conference games is not easy, especially at a place where KU has traditionally not had a lot of success. But on the other hand, you look at it and say, man, this is a game where at the end of the season, I think KU and fans will be kicking themselves looking at it and saying, man, KU could have had one extra win on that final win total if they hadn't turned the ball over once or if the defense was able to get one stop when they really, really needed it.
One more thought on the offense in particular. Do you think that I think it was 29 rushes for 90 yards in the game for KU. Neal had 66, but just not a very effective game, as you mentioned, in that regard. Do you think it was more so that KU was struggling or that OSU was shutting it down?
I think it was Oklahoma State shutting it down. I think KU has some big issues that they're going to have to figure out with this 3-3-5 defense because if you go back to last season, right, what were the worst rushing games for Kansas? Well, it was against Iowa State, the team that basically invented this defense. Texas was really good against it, even though, they used a 4-man front. I'm thinking of Baylor. Baylor was really good stopping KU's run game, and then there's K-State at the end of the season. And now this is another game where KU's played this defense and struggled to run the ball. And I think this defense really eliminates that option game because there are 3 linebackers ready to fill any hole that comes. And it's really hard to kind of figure out who that key man is going to be to actually do the reading of the option. So I think Oklahoma State really did a good job of selling out, making sure that Kansas could not get the run game going. And for 3 quarters, they said, hey, Jason Bean beat us, and Jason Bean was beating them. And then in the 4th quarter, kind of unravels. But I think you got to give credit to Oklahoma State and their coaching staff because they came out with a really, really good game plan. And, in the end, it worked.
I thought the biggest issue on Saturday for KU's defense was the big plays that Oklahoma State was able to pick up. If you measure explosive plays as a 10-yard rush or a 20-yard pass, Oklahoma State had 8 of those in the game, and they had 2 other pass plays of 19 yards, so right on the fringe of that. Effectively, 10 explosive plays. You give up that many explosive plays as a defense, you're not going to end up winning many games, especially on the road, especially not in this conference. What can KU do going forward? And they get the off week now to rest up, work, go through a few extra things, maybe make some little tweaks to the game plan. But what can KU do when they take on explosive athletes like Ollie Gordon in their second half of the season to eliminate some of that big play potential that opposing offenses have had against them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think getting healthy along the defensive line and specifically defensive end will be really important because, KU played that game without Hayden Hatcher, with Jeremy Robinson banged up, and with Austin Booker playing with one knee. So I think being able to rush the passer better, because I think you look at Alan Bowman and say, this is a guy that isn't really a super great athlete, right? And he's a guy you should be able to get pressure on. And that offensive line for Oklahoma State has had serious issues this season. And I think if this was the defensive line in the first 2 weeks of the season, that's fresh, has their legs still, I think it's probably a little bit of a different question. I think there's probably some stuff in terms of the way KU approaches it In the secondary, that can be tweaked as well. I think they do play off coverage, and I think at times, right, Craig Young is a guy that's asked to do a lot of things. I'm not sure if this was the game to have Craig Young lining up over, one of the top maybe 3 slot receivers in the conference, in Presley. He's an incredible player and an incredible athlete. And I think in hindsight, maybe you look at it and say maybe Kalon Gervin should have been out there a little bit more and not putting Craig Young on that island where he's forced to cover a slot guy. I think Craig Young's very versatile, but that's just a tough position for him to be in. So I think this bye week will help. I think the tempo that Oklahoma State runs is really hard for KU because they do use substitutions to really try and limit the amount of opposing plays that can be run, and also just let those defensive linemen get fresh and get everyone aligned right. And so tempo consistently has been a big issue for KU, and I don't know if that's going to change, but I think personnel wise, maybe figuring out some different situations for sub packages and to put different guys in could be the way to go.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, as he does every Tuesday on this program. We call it Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael's work at Fog.net. Subscribe today. Become a VIP. Get full access to all of the great reporting over there by Michael and the folks at Fog.net. And check out Michael on Twitter at mswain247. This is a cliched question, but I'm not sure that there's much of a truer question or a truer team to ask this question about. But is this a proverbial bye coming at a good time for KU here?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I think it's the exact opposite of last year, where I think everyone was talking about the bye week being like a week or 2 late. And I think this one comes at a perfect time. You look at what is going to happen in the final kind of home stretch of this season. There is a tough game against Oklahoma, but if you're going to pick a game that you want to have that extra week of prep for and get fresh for, it's a home game against one of the big boys in the conference, right? If Texas was coming to play KU at home, I think you'd say, yeah, a bye week before Texas is great. So I think that's why it comes at a good time. And plus, I think you just watch the team, right? And there are just guys banged up, right? Mike Nowitzki is stretching in between plays. Lawrence Arnold limping in between plays. You've got guys on the other end on defense playing hurt. And I think just getting this week of rest, recovery, getting away from football a little bit will really help them have a strong finish to the season. So it is a cliche, but I think it's pretty accurate for this year's team.
Speaking of coming out of the bye, obviously it's a tough one right off the rip out of the bye week with the Oklahoma Sooners on deck. But it's Iowa State, Texas Tech, the Sunflower Showdown against K-State, and Cincinnati in the final 5 games for Kansas. What is a reasonable expectation of what Kansas can do, provided Jalen Daniels is available and ready to play out of the bye, provided that they also have some improvement to some other injuries that you just mentioned? What's a reasonable expectation for that closing 5-game stretch?
I think 3-2. I think 3-2 is pretty reasonable. I look at Cincinnati at the end of this season, and KU has not been great on the road, right? You think about last season, Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma. This season, Nevada. That's a win, but that's not a game KU played well in. Texas and now Oklahoma State. KU's not done great in road games, and I look at that Cincinnati team and say, I think KU will still be able to handle them on the road. So I think that's a win. And then I think Oklahoma on the other end is a loss. And then you're looking at kind of 3 games that are probably all close to coin flips, right? I think KU going into Ames will probably be an underdog. Iowa State seems to figure some things out, and K-State at home. We'll have to see what the quarterback situation looks like for K-State, but that secondary for the Wildcats is not great. And then you got Texas Tech. So I think realistically, right, Cincinnati's a win. I think Oklahoma's a loss, and it's a question of what do you do in those 3 games in the middle? And I think KU probably goes 2-1. I don't necessarily know which 2 games they'll win. I bet Texas Tech probably is closer to a win than a loss, and you're looking at a coin flip game against Iowa State on the road and a coin flip game against K-State at home. So I think really you look at it and say, hey, 3-2, get to 8 wins. That's a really good season for KU.
Switching gears to basketball, Kansas, number 1 team in the country in the AP preseason top 25, 46 the 63 first place votes. Is that about what you anticipated? Kansas would come out number 1 in that preseason poll?
Yeah, I think so. I think you look at the roster KU's assembled, and with the returning production they have at key positions, you look at point guard being really important in college basketball, and they've got, I think KU probably is one of the better point guards in the country, right? And DeJuan Harris, they've got a great wing in Kevin McCullough, and they've got the most coveted transfer maybe in the era of the transfer portal, Hunter Dickinson. So I think one of those things where if you look at national, what do national people pay attention to? It's kind of flash, and it's things like that. And Hunter Dickinson brings that, DeJuan Harris brings that, and Kevin McCullough brings that. So not terribly surprised, and obviously KU picked to win the Big 12 as well. Not terribly surprised by that, and I have a big margin of votes as well. So I think KU won the offseason, right, of the teams in the Big 12 and maybe nationally too. And I think as a result, preseason polls are who won the offseason, right? And I think that's exactly what KU did.
Talking to Michael Swain of Fog.net, joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Go find all of Michael's work covering KU at Fog.net. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. And make sure you're following him on Twitter as well. His handle there is at mswain247. Going into Big 12 Media Day tomorrow, it'll be all 14 programs, all 14 coaches in attendance at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. What are you most hoping to hear from Bill Self? Like, what are you, I don't want you to necessarily tell me what you're asking. Let you keep your content for yourself, Michael. But, like, what are you hoping to hear from Self, from the players who were in attendance about the start of the season for this KU team?
I think more team updates, just kind of how are things going generally, because rightfully so, a lot of attention was paid to Arterio Morris being kicked off the team and arrested for rape, right? That's going to get a lot of attention. And then there's the NCAA investigation that came to a conclusion. That gets a lot of attention as well, rightfully so. And so I feel like maybe there hasn't been as much focus or talk about, hey, the actual team this year, right? How are things going? We've seen the team play before in Puerto Rico, but how have things progressed since then? How has Hunter Dickinson adapted to actually being coached up on defense? Because that's something that Bill Self has mentioned briefly, right? He didn't talk a lot of defense before Puerto Rico, and has said he wants Hunter Dickinson to guard in a different way than he had to at Michigan, where he was in drop coverage a lot. So how is that going? How are some of the freshmen? Jamar McDowell is going to have a role this year with Arterio Morris no longer on the team. How is his progression coming? We've heard a little bit about Johnny Furphy, but I just look at this media day that there's a lot you can learn, and I think the three players are DeJuan, Hunter, Kevin. And so the team media day, I think in about 10 days or 2 weeks, will be more focused, I think, for me on other players, hearing from them. But I think this time around, Bill Self will talk for 30 minutes to an hour. So I think there's a lot we can learn about the team and where kind of it's at with the season opener, a month or so, 3 weeks away, something like that.
Yeah, I think as of yesterday, we were 3 weeks away from opening night against North Carolina Central.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. All in on the Eagles this year, 100%. They no, you know what, Dan? That means our guy Po Boy King is going to be at Allen Fieldhouse.
Po Boy himself, PO'Boigh, Po Boy King.
Yeah, Michael, were you not aware of first team All America Po Boy King at NC Central?
I can't say I've done my research on the all name team yet.
Transfer from Harcum College.
Oh, yes. That school that we all certainly know of. Yeah, all right. So we have something to look forward to coming up in 20 days from right now. I did want to ask, Michael, because I know it came out just after we spoke last week. I believe it was last Wednesday. The IARP sanctions or lack thereof. I know they're effectively old news now with Media Day coming up tomorrow. The season starting in just under 3 weeks. What did you make of the punishments, penalties, or lack thereof for KU? Bill Self, I don't know if he was just politicking or if he really meant it, but he said, hey, look, I think it's all fair. I'm ready to just move on. Travis Goff said the same. What did you think of what KU faced from the IARP?
Well, when you compare it to probably what you thought it was going to be 6 years ago, it looks a lot lighter than I think Bill Self would have thought. And I think if you look at the entire punishments and tell 2016 or 2017 version of Bill Self, hey, this is what the end result's going to be, he would have taken that in an instant, right? Because, it was serious stuff at the front end. And I think the IARP went about it in the way that the IARP does, and they took their time. And I think fans, the biggest question I got was, how does the NCAA clear Silvio twice and have it be where he's deemed ineligible after? And I think it's a differential, right? This is the IARP making these decisions and not the NCAA. And they ruled that he was ineligible. So I think it's one of these deals where, yeah, a Final Four banner has to come down, and those wins are vacated. I think on one hand, right, I think KU fans would probably say, well, we saw the wins, right? That shot against Grayson Allen, from Svi against Duke, and then Grayson Allen missing his shot later. You saw that happen. So those memories are still there, but the history books will be altered. And I think that is important, especially in a very historic sport at a historic program like Kansas. But in terms of the ability for Kansas to now take a step forward and kind of get back on the recruiting trail to where they were pre-investigation, there's really nothing that's limiting them, right? They've got a little bit of a visit cap for this cycle, but starting in the next cycle, it's kind of full steam ahead, and there's not much limiting Kansas outside of a 3-year probation. So I think generally, in terms of the punishments, KU take them 10 times out of 10. And are they light? Sure. If you want to look at it that way, I think you could say some of the recruiting stuff does have an impact, but I don't think this is anything near as bad as people would have thought 6 years ago.
Final thing I've got for you, Michael, on this Tuesday afternoon edition of Jayhawk Weekly is real quick, flipping back to the football side, a little recruiting note. He was formerly a KU finalist as a recruit. Now KU is a finalist again for offensive lineman, and correct me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong here, David Abajan. Abajan, is that how you pronounce that? From California?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, David Abajan. Yeah.
Abajan.
Yeah, they are. So it's one of these deals, right, where modern day recruiting, man, you just can't burn bridges with recruits. And I think this is a perfect example of that. He wanted to go to Oregon State. Those guys, right? They were one of those teams that was kind of a second pick as a Pac-12 kind of dark horse, and rightfully so. He wanted to go there, and then conference realignment happens. He's one of these guys that is impacted by it and makes a different decision now that he's like, I don't even know what conference Oregon State's going to be in. So I think he made a smart decision to, open things up. And so we'll see what he decides. I think Thursday is the day. So it's going to be KU or Cal. So we'll have to see. Those were the other two finalists at the front end, but one of those deals where KU kept recruiting him and has that relationship with them. So that's always a positive.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. If you're not a VIP, I absolutely would encourage you to go sign up for that. Both Dan and I are. It is absolutely worth it. You can also find Michael on Twitter at mswain247, and he joins us every Tuesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, we appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks for hopping on with us, and we will see you tomorrow in Kansas City.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
That is Michael Swain from Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. Awesome stuff, as always, from Michael. Yeah, if you could haul in a starting caliber offensive lineman in the middle of the season who initially spurned you once and then flips back to you, that's a pretty good get. By the way, I believe it's also Thursday this week, if you are not super up to date on the recruiting, but maybe know some big names in local recruiting. Michael Boganowski, the linebacker / potential safety, hybrid safety at Junction City, he is going to announce his college decision coming up. He named 4 finalists: KU, K-State, Oklahoma, and Florida State, which surprised me a little bit. I didn't know they were still recruiting him, but someone's going to end up with a hell of a football player, one way or the other. So we'll keep you updated on that when it comes up. Again, I believe that's on Thursday. He's making his commitment. We've got 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk, and we'll lead it off with our headlines coming up on the other side of our top of the hour news. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. We are here with you until 6 o'clock this evening. Thanks so much for spending some of your afternoon hours with us today. We appreciate it every single day, and thank you for stopping by. If you would like to be a part of the show, you can hit us up on our text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. You can also jump into the comment section on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Just go to youtube.com. Make sure you're signed in. You don't have to sign in to watch, but that way you can subscribe to us. We would love for you to do that. It's good for us. It's good for you. A very symbiotic relationship there. So log in on YouTube, your Google account, whatever. Search 580 Sports Talk. We're the first result. Subscribe to our channel. You can check out the live video stream. You can hop into the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on today's show. We've got a busy day of our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up here in just a moment. Talk some more NFL. We'll go around the league with some news today. And another note from Nate Tice over at The Athletic about just how much offense is struggling across the NFL. Final thoughts on the Chiefs as well, plus your text and your YouTube comments still to come. As you heard just mere moments ago before the theme song, today's 5 o'clock hour word in our Ghost Your Bills contest, sports. Love that. Yes, love that for us. So if you want to enter for your chance to win $2,000 a day with the Ghost Your Bills giveaway contest, head to our website, 580wibw.com. There's a post on the homepage, and if I am not mistaken, it is still, yes, indeed, right in the middle of the homepage. If you go there right now, 580wibw.com, you'll see a link to our YouTube stream right in the center of the page, and just one post under that. Headlines, win $2,000 from 580WIBW and Ghost Your Bills. That's what it says right there on the homepage. Click on that and enter the word sports. You'll have to put your email address in as well. But between now and the end of this hour, you can enter sports for your chance to win $2,000 a day from the Ghost Your Bills contest. You must be 18 years or older to play, and you cannot be related to anyone who works on 580 Sports Talk, at 580WIBW, or for Alpha Media Topeka. Let's get to it. Our 580 Sports Talk headlines on this Tuesday afternoon. Coming up tomorrow, we have men's basketball media day for the Big 12 at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. We'll have full coverage there. K-State speaks first thing. Jerome Tang has the first press conference of the day, and the K-State players will speak at around 12:30, I believe it is. KU has the final press conference of the day. Bill Self will speak in the 3 o'clock hour, and then the KU players and Coach Bill Self will speak following that coming up tomorrow. So we'll have full coverage of that on 580 Sports Talk. But today was Women's Media Day for the Big 12 at the T-Mobile Center, and that is when Brett Yormark speaks now. Crafty move by the Big 12 to make sure they get as much media as possible to cover it, which is good. The women deserve that. And they have Brett Yormark speak at Women's Media Day. And one of the big storylines from today is that the conference is working with the T-Mobile Center and Kansas City on extending their contract to keep the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Yormark said, quote, "While nothing is definitive at this point, we are excited by the prospect of calling Kansas City home for years to come. We hope to finalize this by the start of the basketball championships next spring." The contract, the extension reportedly would extend through again 2031. Currently, it expires following the 23. I believe it's after this season. No, I'm sorry. I'm misreading here. So the contract runs through next season to stay at the T-Mobile Center. The women's tournament will actually be at the T-Mobile Center for the first time this year.
Right. They've been running it at the auditorium, and this year they'll run it at the T-Mobile Center.
So that is very exciting for women's basketball. And we'll get to some more women's basketball here in a moment, in fact. But big news for Kansas City. I was legitimately already assuming that they were going to move it out of Kansas City, because some of the comments that we had gotten at Big 12 football media days from Brett Yormark seemed to indicate to me, yeah, when they talk about open for business, they mean wherever they're going to make the most money and can make the biggest spectacle, they're going to end up moving the event there. And it sucks, but I get it. To keep it in Kansas City long term is a big, big deal.
Well, Yormark talked when he took over, talked about moving the basketball tournament. And then his tone changed. You know what coincided with his tone changing? He went to Kansas City and experienced what the Big 12 tournament is like in Kansas City and understands the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City is not dissimilar to what the Big East tournament is in New York City. Now, obviously, New York City is a bigger city than Kansas City. It's a bigger deal.
Yep.
It's New York. It's the Garden. There's all that prestige, and there's a ton of Big East history with that building in a way that there's not maybe quite as much. There's not as much history with the Big 12 tournament at the T-Mobile Center. One, it's a newer building. And two, because they did move it around a little bit. They moved it to Oklahoma City. They moved it to Dallas. Wasn't as good there.
No, it sucked.
It belongs in Kansas City. There's a guy, man, Twitter, the worst.
Yeah.
Utah fan Twitter, bottom two, and it ain't two.
And I understand that social media, Twitter specifically, not wholly representative of all people or all fan bases. I get that. But there are some Ute fans out there, Ute fans with a bad case of Twitter fingers, who will not shut up.
And many of them are tweeting today about, no, you should move the conference tournament. Be better in Las Vegas. Vegas is open because Pac-12 obviously is going to cease to exist. Vegas is open. T-Mobile Arena in Vegas is open. Go to Vegas. You'd rather be in Vegas than Kansas City. And on the one hand, it is very hard to argue, well, which town is more fun, Vegas or Kansas City? It is hard to argue that Kansas City, I like Kansas City. Kansas City is more my scene than Vegas is, but it is very hard to argue between Vegas and Kansas City, which city has more entertainment options. Obviously, Las Vegas. Like, I understand that is the case, but it's not an entertainment option. It's a basketball tournament. And as a basketball tournament, Kansas City does it right. It is the biggest deal in the city for the weekend. It is full in a way that the other tournaments are not. And what the hell does Utah fan have to worry about spending multiple days at a conference basketball tournament anyhow? Like, they're going to be around for more than their little Wednesday pigtail game, and then they're going to go to hell home to Salt Lake City. So what do they care? Enjoy your one day.
Yeah.
Grab some barbecue on the way to the airport.
It's so, you can even grab barbecue at the airport now. I'd grab it before you get there, but you know my point. I understand the gripe. And if you are I've seen this also from Arizona fans, not nearly as loudly. And I've seen some U of A fans too who are like, hey, you know what? I wish it was in Vegas, but I've heard good things. I'm going to make the trip. And Arizona fans travel. They will be there in Kansas City. But like, welcome to West Virginia fan arguments circa 2014. Hey, why does KU get all these home games still? That's not fair. One, if you think KU is winning the Big 12 tournament because there's a lot of KU fans in the building, come on. Look at the program you're talking about here. Also, I have seen with my own eyes Iowa State outdraw KU and K-State in Kansas City. So don't give me that.
Yes.
It is
Kansas City. It's not even in a state where there's a Big 12 team. I don't understand why it's such a big deal. Go. Experience it.
That's what
Just
I said.
like Brett Yormark did, and that's why it's going to be in Kansas City for the long haul.
That was my reaction to the first tweet I saw today from a Utah fan that was, oh my God, you got to put this in Vegas. If you put the Big 12 tournament in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena is Vegas, right? So dumb.
And T-Mobile Park is Seattle. Yes.
Like, it's just another thing. Like, oh, cool, the basketball's there and all the casinos and something else. And 4 other conference basketball tournaments all there at the same time or in the general vicinity. One's played in Henderson, technically. They're all in Las Vegas. And yeah, sure, you get the glitz, the glamour in Las Vegas. Okay, fine, whatever. Most of your conference is still far away from that. And I get that this is going to be a trip for Arizona and Arizona State. I get it's going to be a trip for Utah. And having gone to Salt Lake City from Kansas City, I know it can be hard to fly there. Okay, I get it. But you're more centrally located, and you're not the biggest deal. You are the deal. There is nothing else in Kansas City that compares to Big 12 tournament weekend. It is incredible. And you might not have a million casinos to go to, but hanging out at P&L Crossroads or anywhere
Mm-hmm.
in Kansas City following Big 12 tournament games is the best conference tournament atmosphere there is.
Sorry you got to cross the river to get your gamble on. Sorry nobody's doing a residency at Municipal Auditorium that you can go see when your team inevitably gets eliminated in the first day, Utah fan. But you can trust us on this one. We've experienced it. We've lived it. Trust the veteran, the legacy Big 12 schools. Trust us on this one. That's all I'm saying. Trust us.
It's the best environment for it. They tried Oklahoma City. It sucked. They tried Dallas. It blew. It was terrible.
Nobody
one
went. The arena was half empty the whole time.
What is the drive from Colorado? Most CU graduates probably live in Denver, right?
Yeah, that's probably your largest alumni base. Second largest, I think, is in Los Angeles.
8.5 to 9 hours from
about 8.5.
Denver to Kansas City.
8.5.
We know KU is close. We know Iowa State's close. We know K-State is close.
Oklahoma State,
close enough. It's only 8.5 hours.
Your Texas schools are only 6.5 hours.
Yeah, I mean it's what, 8 hours to Dallas? Well, roughly 8 hours to Dallas. Depends how you drive.
Uber to the Hollywood Casino if you have to get down to enjoy your college basketball tournament experience. That's what you got to do. Uber to the Argosy.
It is slightly longer to drive by like 20 minutes from Cincinnati to Kansas City. And when Cincinnati bounces back, because they will, that's a great program historically.
Mm-hmm.
When they get good again, and I'm convinced they will travel. Bearcat fans will travel. It's just such a good environment. Don't give away something that is great just for the sake of saying, oh, but it's Vegas. Who cares? No one there does. That means nothing except for Arizona fans and Utah fans who can drive there. That's it. That's the only thing that matters there. Keep it somewhere where it means something.
Agreed 100%. Speaking of Big 12 basketball, today was Women's Basketball Media Day. It's going to be another outstanding year in the Big 12 on the women's side. The AP Top 25 preseason women's basketball poll was released today. The top-ranked Big 12 team is Texas, 13th overall. Baylor's also ranked at number 19. The two in-state teams not far behind. In fact, Kansas State, first team out in the others receiving votes, got 47 votes, just 7 vote points behind 25th ranked Mississippi State. Following Kansas State is North Carolina State and then Kansas, the reigning WNIT champions.
Awesome.
Who received 26 votes. So K-State 26th and Kansas 28th, basically in the preseason AP polling. Of course, I mentioned Kansas returning a lot from that WNIT championship team. K-State gets Ayoka Lee back, and all she is the single game record holder for most points scored in a Division I women's basketball game. In addition to a pretty good team, Serena Sundell, Gabby Gregory, Jeff Mindy's got a squad this year as well. So it's going to be a really good year of women's basketball in the Sunflower State. By the way, if you were curious, the reigning national champions LSU are ranked first, receiving 35 of the 36 first place votes. UConn, number 2 in the country, they got the other first place votes. Iowa, UCLA, Utah round out the top 5. And if you were wondering, Utah is 5th. If we're looking at future Big 12 schools, Utah is 5th. Colorado is 20th. And that is a wrap on that. Iowa State also receiving votes. They've got one of the greatest Kansas prep players of all time, Emily Ryan, back for her senior season as well. That also bears mention.
God, she is a senior already.
I think that's right.
Holy God.
Well, let me think. Yeah, would be a senior because her COVID year was her senior year of high school. So yeah, this is the COVID year was her senior year of high school.
Oh my God.
So yeah, Emily Ryan is a senior. Yes.
Time really flies, huh?
It sure does.
Holy smokes. Yeah, freshman year 2021. Wow. That's unbelievable. Going to be such a fun year for women's basketball in the state. And such a good year for the Big 12, but the Big 12 is always a great conference. Next up on our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today, some news from the NFL, some front office NFL news for you. This reported by Judy Batista of NFL Network. A couple of different rule changes that the NFL is trying to implement. Some various NFL dignitaries spoke at a press conference today. Dr. Alan Sills, the chief medical officer for the NFL, in fact, he spoke. And the league spoke about today removing the hip drop tackle from the NFL game and trying to find a way to legislate that. Who is the player week 1 who got hurt this way?
I don't remember, but I remember Geno Smith getting hurt on Monday Night Football.
That might have been it.
Yeah.
That might have been it that I'm thinking of. It's a dangerous type of tackle. The league is trying to get rid of it. League executives are trying to figure out a way to determine exactly what it is so it can be removed from the game. They just don't exactly know how to teach it to officials yet to legislate out, which I would rather have them figure it out than have officials throwing flags that they don't know what they're throwing them for. So that's something to keep in mind for future years, that there could be a new rule about tackling that gets thrown into the game. Additionally, Peter O'Reilly, NFL executive, said today that the Super Bowl in London is not a near-term focus of the NFL, says that the focus is on Super Bowls in NFL cities in the United States.
You know what my source is on that? I have the same reporting, and my source on that is common freaking sense, because when are you going to play the Super Bowl if you play it in London? There's a little thing called time zones that exist. You notice when we're playing all these London games, 8 in the damn morning, Central Time. That means it's 6:30 in Los Angeles when you're kicking these games off. You don't play the Super Bowl then.
You would play it in prime time, because they put the games in London at the like on an NFL window, like it's a 3:25 kickoff in London.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess you kick it off at 8.
The latest I have ever seen a sporting event kick off in England that I have watched on American television, so like a soccer match, essentially, right? 2 p.m. Central Time.
Which means it was a 9 o'clock start, assuming you were in Central Time.
Yes.
9 o'clock start time in London.
They're not starting a Super Bowl at 2 p.m. Central Time.
No.
They're going to start it when they always do, just after 6, roughly after 6. Which means you're talking about a midnight kickoff in London? No, the hell you're not. It's not happening. It's never happening. They put that out there. People freak out, and I understand why, because, damn it, the Super Bowl is the most American thing there is, and they're not moving it to London. I promise you. They will never, ever, 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 ever do it. Ever.
You know, they put WrestleMania in London. Or they put SummerSlam in London. They've talked about WrestleMania.
That is a very different event.
I don't know what's more American than a bunch of dudes getting oiled up and, you know, slopping all over each other.
Please don't say that ever again. Big meaty men slapping meat.
Big meaty men slapping meat. Other notes from today: NFL owners have unanimously approved a proposal to not allow in-person head coaching interviews from other teams until after the divisional round. I think that is a good thing personally. Also, while speaking of international games, the NFL in December, that's the expectation for now, is going to decide on a location for one of their international games next year in a new country. The finalists, Madrid, Spain, or somewhere, don't know where, in Brazil. Put the game in Brazil. I am telling you right now, put the game in Brazil. There is a huge NFL following in the country of Brazil. Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, put it down there. It will be a hit.
100,000 at the Maracanã.
Yeah.
For an NFL game would be pretty sick.
Put them there. It will be incredible. And that's nothing against Spain. Put it in Brazil. Plus, you don't have to change time zones.
No, they can just be a game.
Yeah. No, that would be awesome.
Yes.
That would be super cool. Put it in Brazil.
Yeah, all for that. Next headline for me, how about some NFL transactions? The Philadelphia Eagles today signed Julio Jones to a contract.
Yeah.
Did not realize the Eagles were in the market for wide receiver help, but they are, and they signed the 34-year-old Jones, who his former teammate A.J. Brown has been trying to reunite with. It was Brown, when he was a Titan in 2021, who pushed hard for Jones to be signed by the Titans. And ultimately he was, and played to no real distinction there. Then last year he played with no real distinction with the Buccaneers. Julio's probably cooked, is what I'm saying here. He's had an outstanding career. He's got the most receiving yards of any active player in the NFL. He's got all kinds of Falcons records. But now he is a Philadelphia Eagle. They had to place Quez Watkins on injured reserve earlier this week with a hamstring injury, so the Eagles are a little bit banged up at the position. But we'll see about Julio Jones and if he has anything left in the tank. Also, the Packers signed James Robinson to a contract today for some running back depth.
Yeah, and that was originally reported as an active roster signing. It's actually to the practice squad. I got no problem with it. The Packers' third option at running back this year so far has been Patrick Taylor, who stinks. He's not good at anything. Aaron Jones has been banged up, and A.J. Dillon's been no good. If James Robinson has anything left in the tank, Packers upgraded the running back 3, and if he doesn't, you're no worse off. Again, Patrick Taylor stinks, so you're no worse off if that doesn't work out.
Speaking of running backs, would you like to remember some guys? Because the Rams did some guy remembering
Big time, yes.
today because both of their running backs got hurt on Sunday. Kyron Williams and Ronnie Rivers were both injured. So they've elevated Royce Freeman, former Bronco, to the from the practice squad
Oregon great
to the active roster. They've signed Darrell Henderson, former Ram. Maybe you forgot he was ever off of the team at all. He's back now at the very least to the practice squad. And they also signed Myles Gaskin off of the Vikings practice squad. I thought Myles Gaskin was going to be a good NFL player.
I thought so too. One year, if you remember his final year in college, we did our who's going to win the Heisman Trophy picks, and I picked Myles Gaskin.
I do remember that.
He was awesome at Washington, and then suddenly he wasn't nearly as awesome.
And then I thought Miami got a steal when they got him in the 7th round, and he's averaged 3.8 yards per carry in his career.
And funny enough, you know who is still on Miami's roster? Savon Ahmed, who replaced Myles Gaskin.
Yeah.
And was his running mate one year. 2 things about Julio Jones real quick. Number 1, do you remember what his full name is?
Yes.
Quintorris Lopez Jones
it
Jr.
Quintorris, that's right.
I don't know how you get Julio from Quintorris, but I love it. Secondly, Hall of Fame?
Yeah, easily.
I would say yes. I think, and for what it's worth, the Pro Football Reference Hall of Fame monitor says yes as well. I think that post Calvin Johnson, pre Devontae Adams, the best receiver in the NFL was Julio Jones. He went from 2015 through 2019, 2 first-team All-Pros, 3 straight second-team All-Pros. He's been to the Pro Bowl 7 times in 12 years. And he was incredible during his peak with Atlanta. He had a year where he had 1,800 yards.
Yeah.
The only thing that would harm him is this is crazy. He only went over 10 touchdowns once.
Yeah, he was never a touchdown guy. It became a running joke.
Yeah.
That like Matt Ryan was always looking for someone else in the red zone. Like he'd catch like 4 passes for 64 yards on a drive, and then like OJ Santiago would catch the touchdown or some rando tight end. I don't even know if they were teammates together. They probably weren't.
Latter years of Algie Crumpler.
Right.
Like, I think the logic was always, well, they're of course going to guard Julio. They're going to double him.
Right.
Let's go somewhere else with it. No, I mean, he was a star. But yeah, only 1 year where he had 10 touchdowns is kind of crazy. Never went over 8 in any other year. Not very good with Tennessee a couple years ago. Last year, totally washed with Tampa. Only had 299 yards in 10 games played. If he's got any juice left, they only need him to be their 4th best wide receiver. That's probably fine, but we'll see. I don't know how much juice he has left.
Yeah, I have some questions.
Last thing we'll get to before we get to our first break. Want to take us to our playoff roundup?
Let's do it. Major League Baseball playoff roundup. Only 1 game today. It's later on tonight, game 2 of the National League Championship Series. Game 1 went to the Phillies 5-3 last night as they hit some long balls early. Kyle Schwarber took the first pitch of the game from Zach Gallen out of the yard. Bryce Harper later homered in the first. Nick Castellanos homered as well for the Phils, who continue to roll through the National League postseason. They take a 1-0 lead in the NLCS. Again, game 2 is tonight. It's Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks on the mound. It's Aaron Nola for the Phils. The ALCS, that was going on while we did the playoff roundup yesterday. The Rangers did hold on in the end for a 5-4 victory. Astros have had all kinds of chances in the first 2 games, but the Rangers are keeping them at bay. 6 strong innings from Nathan Eovaldi, certified big game pitcher, and the bullpen took care of the rest. The Rangers go up 2-0 with a 5-4 win yesterday. Game 3 tomorrow in Arlington, and Max Scherzer comes back off of injury to start that game for the Rangers. You got to be feeling pretty good if you're Texas with a 2-0 lead. You're back home. Max Scherzer's lined up. Their lineup is nasty. They're not missing anything. They are rolling. They have won 7 consecutive games to start this postseason. 1 game short of the record for most consecutive wins to start a postseason, held by, everybody say it together, the 2014 Kansas City Royals.
That's insane. I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know
They
that.
won the
fact.
wild card game, and then they won the division series, and then they won the championship series. That was 8 straight
Wow.
to start the playoffs.
How about that? And they've 6 straight on the road too, which I think is tied for the record.
Yes, that is also remarkable because remember, they were the road team in their division series. They had to go, they were the 4 seed or the 5 seed rather. They had to go play at Tampa Bay. They did not get the benefit of home field in the wild card round. So very impressive what they're doing. It's a really good team. I know that we did a lot of hand wringing, we meaning me, about the 100-win teams who did. They had better, you have great regular season, you win 100 games. But you can also win 90 games and be real damn good too. Like you go 90 games, that's a hell of a year. You're probably a pretty good team. And these Rangers, they are something else. They are rolling. It does though not bode well that when you look at the history of playoff winning streaks, a lot of them die hard. Like for example, the 2014 Royals, who of course did not win the World Series that year, or the 2007 Rockies, who won their first 7 playoff games and did not win the World Series. In fact, lost their next 4 playoff games and did not win the World Series. So there's some precedent for hot streaks dying very hard, very abrupt and painful deaths in the playoffs. But now these Rangers are just tearing through the American League.
It's pretty cool to watch, honestly. I mean, I know you're rooting against them, but it's kind of amazing that they just turned it on. It was just like, all right, we're good. We're time to win.
Yes.
Especially after all the hubbub about the fact that they blew the final game of the regular season.
Yes. And lost, essentially, they lost the tiebreaker because they finished with the same record as the Astros. But it was the Astros who won the division because we don't play tiebreakers anymore, which is a drag.
Yeah, it sucks.
We don't play the one-game tiebreakers anymore.
That was fun. I liked that.
Yeah, I have fond memories of game 163.
It's the last meaningful game the Chicago White Sox won. Their fans still talk about it.
I also have a not fond memory of a game 163, but we're going to talk about that.
That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Coming up, we'll talk a little NFL football coming up on the other side of this break right here on 580 Sports Talk. We spent a lot of time on yesterday's show. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk, by the way, talking about how offense is down around the NFL and defenses around the league are playing really well right now. And Nate Tice over at The Athletic came up with some statistics and comparisons. We didn't come up with them, but he dug them up and shared them on Twitter today. How about this? For quarterbacks, touchdown percentage So just the percentage of pass attempts that go for touchdowns. 3.9%. That's the lowest since 2008, 15 years. Yards per attempt, league over, 6.9%. That is the lowest since 2008. Yards per completion, 10.6. That is the lowest mark ever. Net yards per pass attempt. That also includes things like sack yardage and touchdowns and things like that. 5.95. That's the lowest since 2005, 18 years. Passer rating, 88.2. Generally, if you're at 100 or better, that's really good. 158.3 is perfect. 88.2 right now, the league over. That's the lowest mark in 6 years, since 2017. Sack percentage, how often you are sacked per dropback? 7.2%. That is the highest mark in the NFL since 1998. Kind of amazing how much offense is struggling around the league right now. That brings me to something that I saw from CBS Sports. Cody Benjamin, NFL writer over at CBS Sports. We went through Bill Barnwell's list of potential trades last week.
Uh-huh.
Well, we got another one. We are just a few weeks away. October 31st, which is 2 weeks from today. In fact, 2 weeks from today is the NFL trade deadline. Here are 15 trade prospects from CBS, and we don't have to get to all of them, but I will get to one that involves the Kansas City Chiefs. Can you explain to me why there has been a push in the last week or so for the Chiefs to go after Hollywood Brown? Because this is not the first time I have seen this. Cody Benjamin at CBS Sports says the Chiefs should trade, or could trade, a third-round pick to the Arizona Cardinals in order to get Hollywood Brown. I have seen this take, not necessarily that exact return, but the take that, Cardinals are bad, expiring contract, Chiefs should go get him. Add some more speed. Add a proven wide receiver. Is Hollywood Brown the kind of guy who makes that sort of difference for your team? That would make that sort of difference for the Chiefs? I don't really think so. I don't know that I completely understand why there's so much momentum from Chiefs fans or NFL people behind the Chiefs going after him.
Yeah, it doesn't really jive for me either. I think this is a match made for content's sake. Okay, Chiefs need a wide receiver. Everybody thinks they need a wide receiver. Okay, well, who are the bad teams that are going to be trading people? Who among them has a wide receiver who's established and affordable under the salary cap? Oh, I know. The Cardinals. They stink. They might trade some guys. How about Hollywood Brown? Yeah, sure. Write it. Publish it.
Like, he's a name more than he's a player, I think, at this point. Like, he's fine. He's fast. He doesn't have especially good hands. He's never been an elite route runner. He's not a jump ball guy. Like, he's just fast, which is a nice thing to have.
Yeah, speed is good.
I don't know, man. I don't really understand that connection. I would not do that for what it's worth. I would hold on to that pick for that trade.
I want to go back though to the point about those stats that you brought up, particularly yards per attempt and touchdown percentage being the lowest since 2008. So that seemed like a benchmark that might be worth checking on, because that's 15 years ago. And I went and looked at who the starting quarterbacks in the league were in 2008. And obviously there were some really outstanding quarterbacks. There was only one starting quarterback in the league that year that had a quarterback rating over 100.
In 2008?
In 2008. And look, quarterback rating is a flawed stat, but it at least is a straight line comparison we can use on a year-to-year basis.
Sure. So that would have been Super Bowl 43, which ended up, it was... That was Cardinals Steelers, wasn't it?
Cardinals Steelers, 2008 Super Bowl, correct.
What?
Well, it wasn't either of those quarterbacks.
No, I was going to say, because Warner, the Cardinals were only, 9-7 in the regular season that year? Breeze?
No.
Not Breeze. Manning would be an obvious guess.
It's not him.
Not Peyton Manning, not Rodgers at that point.
Not quite him. You've named 4th, 5th, and 6th in the league.
Okay.
And Warner was 3rd.
Brady was not playing that year.
No, that was the year Brady got hurt. So you had Matt Castle starting for
he didn't get to that mark.
So yeah, you depressed some quarterback stats. The greatest of all time, didn't
Rivers
play that year. Phillip Rivers of the 8-8 AFC West champion San Diego Chargers. He was the only quarterback to have a quarterback rating over 100 that year.
Awesome.
There were some bummy starting quarterbacks this year. Guys who started the majority of their team's games included a totally cooked Jeff Garcia in Tampa Bay, we thought totally cooked at the time Brett Favre for the Jets. Trent Edwards started 14 games in Buffalo. Seneca Wallace started the majority of games for Seattle after Matt Hasselbeck got hurt. Sean Hill was the guy in San Francisco. 36-year-old Kerry Collins won a bunch of games for Tennessee that year.
Yeah, he did. They went 13-3, didn't they?
Yeah, it was the year they started 10-0, I believe. Maybe
Yeah.
it was even.
I think it was even better than that.
11-0. Kyle Orton was the guy in Chicago.
Yep.
They were a playoff team that year. Chiefs fans already know who their guy was. That was Tyler Thigpen starting 11 games that year. Jamarcus Russell started that year. Detroit's primary quarterback that year was Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, it was just the 15th anniversary the other day of him running out of the end zone.
Yeah. We've seen 2 new quarterbacks do it the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure that helps him sleep better at night.
That was the winless Lions, by the way.
I say all that to say, not an encouraging collection of quarterbacks. And I think when you look at this 2023 group of quarterbacks, what stands out to me about it is it's similarly uninspiring when you get past like the top tier guys. Like the top tier guys now, I think are just as good or better, like historically speaking, as the top tier guys in 2008. Like that wasn't a great Roethlisberger season. Brady, as I mentioned, didn't play. In 2023, you still have like the top tier guys are still great. But that like middle to bottom tier, it's not so much that it's not good quarterbacks. It's that it's really young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's CJ Stroud's a rookie. You got a lot of rookies starting. You got a lot of second year guys like Sam Howell and Justin Fields and guys like that, Desmond Ridder. And you've got a position right now that's really full of young players playing a lot. Some of those young guys are going to pop and be great players. Some of them will not, but all of them are going to experience growing pains.
So here's an illustration of that. I'm looking at expected points added right now. I don't want to get too far into the numbers, but according to Ben Baldwin's stats, the expected points added combined with expected completion percentage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here's numbers 11 through 20. So your middle third, essentially, of the NFL right now. Quarterback play. Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Sam Howell, Jimmy Garoppolo, CJ Stroud, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford. Like, how many guys in that middle third are you like, that's a dude? Like, they're coming or they're here, and maybe they just need to figure a couple things out. Like, Lawrence has not been as good so far this year as maybe we hoped he would be. He's a nailed-on starter. I think he is good. CJ Stroud is really encouraging, for sure. Geno has been probably not as spectacular as last year, but it's been pretty good.
Taking better care of the ball.
That's important.
Nice.
And Lamar is spectacular.
Yeah, I love Lamar.
But outside, like, we know what Cousins is. Howell, at his best, is probably like Derek Carr. Oh, by the way, Derek Carr's in this group too.
Of course he is.
Like, Watson has not been good and may never be as good as he was in Houston ever again. You don't usually take 2 years off from football and suddenly be good again.
Mm-hmm.
Stafford has been better, but the stats indicate he has not been great. He was terrible last year when he played before he got hurt. Right after that group, you got Tannehill, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields. I mean, it's not good.
Yeah.
So I think you've got a real point there about the quarterback play just has not been good enough.
Combination of the speed on defense that we've talked about and the willingness of defenses to, leave the middle third open and take away the deep shot, and quarterbacks who just maybe aren't good enough to take advantage of what defenses give them. And that's where we're at.
Real quick, I just wanted to hit on a couple of these other ones that are kind of goofy. He's got the Buccaneers trading for Derrick Henry, 3rd round pick.
What?
I don't quite understand that one. He's got the Broncos dumping both Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton for a grand total of 2 third-round picks and a 5th. All of these are just third-round picks.
They've got 4 Bronco trades on there. They've also got Justin Simmons to the Eagles and Josie Jewell to the I'm scrolling. Josie Jewell to the Dolphins.
That's a dumb trade.
Josie Jewell stinks.
The Dolphins' whole thing is let's just be as fast as possible.
One of the least athletic linebackers in the entire league.
We were talking about Chargers receivers earlier. They've got them getting Darnell Mooney from the Bears. I guess. I mean, he's fine. I don't know that he's a game changer, though. Brian Burns to the Ravens. I actually kind of love that.
Yeah.
Panthers never got a deal done with him in the offseason. They could use a first-round pick. I actually don't hate the idea for that one. And then my favorite team, he's also got Zach Ertz going to the Packers. That doesn't really make sense. The Packers could have signed their own old free agent last year and didn't. I don't think that's going to end up happening. We've got to get to another break. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up in just a few. Five Sports Talk wrapping up on a Tuesday. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Did you hear Al Michaels say Metro Boomin last week on Thursday Night Football?
I did. It was wonderful.
Metro Boomin, ladies and gentlemen. And then Kirk Herbstreit goes, woo, in the background. So good. Oh, I love that. Al Michaels has gotten to learn a lot about popular music in the last 2 years doing these Amazon games with their post-game concerts.
The post-game concerts hosted by 2 Chainz.
Our guy, 2 Chainz.
What do you think Al Michaels' favorite 2 Chainz song is?
Oh, man, No Hands.
Spend It.
Definitely.
I think it's Spend It.
So funny. I saw 2 Chainz in concert one time.
Did you?
It was terrible. It was so bad. Like, it was at a festival, and he just kept yelling for people to calm down. Like, dude, you're at an outdoor music festival. The whole thing is people are rowdy. Like, that's why you come to these things.
Right.
Not a good show. Not a good show. But I can say I saw 2 Chainz.
That's too bad. 2 Chainz is an innovator in the English language space.
Try.
The man invented a new way to refer to a lap dance as a lapetizer, so he could rhyme it with appetizer. And that is a little thing called genius.
Yeah. No, that is certainly unique. I will give him credit for that. One other note we should probably get to, because I missed this when we were doing some chat about the first part of Big 12 basketball media days today. Brett Yormark confirmed that this will be the final year of 18 conference games for the Big 12 in basketball. Starting in 24-25, the Big 12 is going to play 20 league games. That makes some amount of sense because you just have so many teams you're playing. I mean, you're going to have a 16-team league. The question is, how do you divide up those games? And that would leave you with, if you're playing 20 games, that means there's 15 teams you're playing against. So you play everybody once, single round robin, and then you play home and away with 5 opponents. That would be, right? Yeah, 5 other opponents. So who would they be? I mean, if you're KU, from that perspective, you got to play K-State, you got to play Iowa State. You have to play those games every year.
Mm-hmm.
I would say you still play Oklahoma State, and I would honestly, give me Baylor and Colorado. I think Colorado has to be in there because it's a classic Big 12 member.
Sure.
I would want that to be played again.
Yeah.
Give me Baylor.
Yeah.
Honestly.
The Baylor or Houston, because it's going to give you the best chance for really good games. And I think KU Baylor has kind of become a tentpole Big 12 game here the last few years.
I think it has.
That's one that you circle that on the schedule, that what's been a home and home at Allen and the Farrell Center.
Obviously, Missouri is always going to be rival number 1 for Kansas, and Kansas State is obviously the current biggest rival since the 2 programs still actually play. But you've kind of had that with KU continuing to win so much in the league. Like West Virginia was that team for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, dang, that was must-see TV every time they played. It's been Baylor for years now. Even when Missouri was still around, it was Texas for a few years there in the late 2000s. So, no, I would take any of those. And I would assume K-State would be in the same boat, honestly.
Yeah, you probably want the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, obviously Iowa State, KU. I would say Colorado.
Yep.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And then, maybe, I don't know. You could sell me on anybody. You sell me on TCU for the purple. You could sell me on Tech because I think there's some.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that.
You could sell me on that. But that's where you'd be headed. And I mean, it's a bummer. Like the conferences get so big, you can't do round robin anymore. And round robin was special about the 10-team Big 12. And it'll be different.
Yeah.
It won't be bad. It won't necessarily be worse. It'll just be different.
Real quick, something you are hoping to hear from anyone tomorrow at Media Day.
I just want to hear Jerome Tang talk about dudes.
Yeah. I would love to know I guess talking about K-State specifically, I would love to know what exactly they envision the role being for a couple of these guys.
Naquan Tomlin in particular.
I was going to say Tomlin and Kaluma. Because I think Kaluma's is a little more nailed on because he's a bit more of a finished product transferring in from Creighton. But I would love to know what the plan is for the 2 of them. And if no one else asked that, maybe I'll be asking that question coming up tomorrow. At
there
Media
you
Day.
go.
We will have full coverage of it. Yours truly will be on site in Kansas City. We'll have audio from Jerome Tang, the K-State contingent, Bill Self, the KU contingent, all tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. We have to get to one final break. We'll come on back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word after this. 580 Sports Talk. It's final word time, Dan.
Maybe I was a little defensive with the way I talked to Utah fan during headlines regarding the one guy on Twitter who's trying to get Brett Yormark to move the men's basketball tournament out of Kansas City and to Las Vegas in the future. So let me be a little less strident and a little more welcoming in the spirit of the Midwest, after all. Utah fan, come experience this tournament in Kansas City. Experience it, and you will understand why Brett Yormark wants to keep it here. Because Brett Yormark did not show up at Big 12 headquarters with the idea that he was going to keep that tournament in Kansas City very long. And now they're going to keep it in Kansas City through the rest of this decade. That should convince you that that's the best place for the Big 12 basketball tournament to be. And hopefully, maybe one year you'll build a team good enough we'll get to hang around and experience more than just one day.
Yeah, my final thought and word for today is also about this and the Big 12 tournament staying in Kansas City where it belongs. In an era of college sports when we are losing so much goodness, rivalries, and excitement, and so many positive things, keeping good things where they are should be important. It should be imperative. And we've talked before about how we're keeping rivalries together with some of the new schools joining the Big 12, Colorado rejoining rivalries, Holy War and Utah staying together, the Territorial Cup in Arizona. Keep the Big 12 tournament where it is. It's where it belongs and where it should stay. That's it for 580 Sports Talk. We've got a busy day coming up tomorrow, so we'll talk to you then at 2 o'clock. For Jake, for Dan, I'm Brendan. This is 580 Sports Talk.